It's A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. We started a little music club and we called it A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. We can't go on tour again until this damn pandemic ends. Until then, friends, won't you come on in and join us for A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. Analytical criticism regarding objectively narrowing your music. That song never gets old, does it? What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
Friends and family, we've reached the finale of this first season of A.C.R.O.N.Y.M, which is like the biggest TV event since the finale of Breaking Bad, I bet.
Yeah.
For us. And do you remember where we watched the finale of Breaking Bad?
I do, the media club.
That's right.
Do you remember what you drank that night?
What I drank? Yeah, we met Ken Echo that night, so I drank something very nice. There we go. We have some Vancouverites already.
It was a great scotch, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That night, the night of the Breaking Bad finale, we were in Vancouver playing a show, and we wouldn't open the doors until the Breaking Bad finale was over. We held the doors, except we let our buddy Ken in, who had his 2 kids for sound check, and he's a good friend still. And it always brings us a nice gift for some reason. He's a very sweet dude. But yeah, so this episode is British Columbia, the mecca of touring in Canada. I think there's so many. When I went over all the places we play in British Columbia, it's a lot versus anywhere else, to be honest. So
yeah, it should have. You could have split it up 2 or 3 times, but we're going to do the whole province this episode. So.
We'll come back to it. There's no hard and fast rule with A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. That's what makes it so fun. It just doesn't matter. Whatever happens, happens. But we do have the music portion to go through before we have our good buddy, our old friend, Dan Mangan from the early days. Yeah,
special
he's going to be on with us later. Yeah, he's a very special guest. It's going to be good to talk to him. He's been up to a lot of cool stuff during this pandemic. He's actually been one of the sort of leaders of bridging the gap with what he's been doing. So it's
cool. And we could get to that, but it's just like, kudos to him for and he came up with that idea well before the pandemic, and it just kind of like coalesced with it, right? And
sideshow.
A lot of opportunities for people.
We got a couple of Vancouverites on our team who are going to be hanging with us today.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome. Well,
right?
Let's start the music portion. I'm going to add a special, this is just last minute, a special music portion at the end of these 9 songs, which I will vote as this season's worst song of all time. Not from our list, but a song I heard on the radio that I will like, that I cannot hold back my hatred for. It'll be at the end. But let's start with Steve's first pick. As always, Steve bats lead off. And his pick is the Pixies.
I hate to call this an underdog because the Pixies, one of their comments when I was researching this song was like, the Pixies make me feel like I've just joined a super cool hipster club that nobody knows about. I was like, yeah, that kind of sums it up in one way. We got to see them actually at, what was it, Turf Fest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were.
And then I think one band, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, and then we got to go in the press pit to see the Pixies. And this is about 4 or 5 years ago, so it was pretty exciting.
Look for the bald guys.
Yeah. It brought it back for me how amazing they are. First of all, like the guitar tones and also the chords they use. Like this song, Monkey Gone to Heaven, that I picked. The chords are like, you don't hear that anywhere. I can't find another song that sounds like that. And it also features like a talking lyric through it, which is kind of, I don't know, a personal favorite for me is just hearing. I love songs that have talking, even if it's.
You do like a good little narration.
Yeah, I'll buy it. You talk in a song, I'm buying it.
I have a question for you. Do you find the way he says monkey, it's like he's splitting it up syllable wise to make it work for the song, but it sounds like
this
for me,
monkey's gone to heaven.
But no, you're singing it way better than he is.
He's singing it punk rock.
I wonder. You know what? You can mishear it as this junkie's gone forever.
Well, the one thing is like if you don't know the song, if you don't go to the lyrics, you don't hear monkey necessarily.
No.
So he kind of separates it. So
yeah, and the number thing in the middle too, like that if 5 is man, 6 is the devil. 7 is God. Yeah, 7 is God. That's
and they're definitely one of the. We were talking about this just before we got on air. Is that the Pixies? For me, I never knew them really, to be honest. But I listened to every band that was formed because of them, or were contemporaries like Dinosaur Jr. and all that other stuff. And I knew of them, but I just wasn't like Sean Creamer from the Dakota days, and now that that's his favorite band, and Judd and all that. They love them. Oh. They maybe are a little older than us.
But. Oh, everything, the tones.
Well, go ahead, keep going on the tone. Go.
No, it was more about that was my point of this pick, is that they were kind of got usurped by grunge because like they split up just as sort of grunge was breaking they were from the East Coast, but it was guitar rock. And like if you listen to Modest Mouse, I hear a lot of Pixies and Modest Mouse, in some way.
You could argue, and I think it's a fair argument, that the opening guitar riff or the guitar riff to Where Is My Mind is like a top 10 guitar riff of all time. It's amazing. It's like it's just like so gigantically massive when that song comes.
Well, and it's massive because it's an acoustic guitar.
Oh, it's just
you know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing. It's just like he's playing his acoustic, right? Whereas like then grunge comes along and it's two massive guitars. We're just like heavy.
Well, that song's also, because this song has Monkey in it, 12 Monkeys. Big scene with Where's My Mind is in that movie. It's in a bunch of good stuff. But great pick on the Pixies. I think.
Nice. The last thing is like it does really straddle the 80s and 90s because the production, it wasn't quite as epic as like the grunge really huge guitars. It was, you can still hear a bit of the 80s, like the snare and all that in the Pixies. So they're really kind of, to me, that's why they kind of turned the page to the 90s.
Yeah, like I'm thinking 88, 89, I was on Appetite for Destruction on repeat and stuff at that time. So I wasn't even close to this, to be honest, if that's the era. 87.
Right.
I think Appetite's 87.
Well, 87, you're in grade 5, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm not intellectually all there until a year from now. So.
That was going to be the thing I was going to ask, not to keep like going on about this, but it's just like, how old are you at that time, Steve, when you're listening?
Right. Well, I was in my 20s. I was actually a musician.
Yeah. So you're looking cerebrally, you could relate to it.
I haven't even found the guitar at that point.
But funny enough, I didn't. Somehow I missed the Pixies too because of where I was at in my life. I kind of discovered them later, like towards the end of the 90s.
Well, they sort of ruled that whole festival. That was amazing. Like, everything sounded incredible. It was huge. There were songs that I didn't realize I knew after. And of course, the breakoff band, the Breeders, that song was the Cannonball song was like possibly a larger song than anything from even the entire Pixies catalog, to be honest. And Frank Black solo. I went in that way. I knew that Frank Black song.
Yeah.
All right. Good first pick. We're going to move on to a Vancouverite, actually. Mark's first pick of the day.
Yeah, I love this song when it came out. Frazee 4, Done. It's a brilliant tune. I mean, I know Frazee, obviously, from the Be Good Tanyas. Saw them play their first show in Toronto when they were the Be Good Tanyas. They're like, this is our first show ever here in Toronto. They played at the Silver Dollar Room, opening for Crazy Strings. Drinking quarts of 50, enjoying the music. But anyways, this tune is. It's beautiful. It's such an empowering song. The video is
her playing. Can you? I know where that stage.
Is.
The stage is identifiable.
Yeah, that's at Pickathon.
Yeah, that's the wood stage at Pickathon.
It's just it's amazing. Like it's such a soulful song, soulful record. I so wanted to see her when she released this record. We were playing in Calgary at the exact same time. I can't remember the festival. Maybe it was
Sled Island.
No, it was in the middle of winter.
Oh yeah, the Block Heater.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was playing at the exact same time as us, so we couldn't go see her. And that was the one show that I wanted to see. It was like Passing in the Night. It was like, But this song, for me, I mean, the lyrics are beautiful. Like, I don't think anybody swears better than her in a song. Like,
do I have it in my head that she had like Al Green players on one of this record? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So they're called the High Rhythm Section.
Yeah. So she had, it was like an all-star. The other thing too is there's not very many people who you can absolutely not mistake the voice for. There's no one else who is like, is that Frazee? It's not. She is like so alone in the sound that she has. Yeah. There's like nothing you can compare it to. It's all, you would never go like, is that her or is that not her? It stands out so above everything else.
But there's some brilliant lyrics in here. It's just like the one thing that I love is obviously it's a relationship song. It's crumbling or whatever. It's like, I can't keep the peace anymore. But the one line that I really, really love is my joy takes nothing from you. Like my happiness doesn't take anything away from you. It's such a brilliant, obviously dark line because it's like, what does that mean on so many levels? But anyways, I just love this song from moment one. Yeah. And the video, go watch the video. The video's
that was a good move to go with the Al Green because you can tell like it does have that sound, but it really weaves well into her sound. It's a good point.
And I would have thought that this would have just blown her up into the massive main, like so huge, but it didn't. You never know why.
Even relating to Be Good Tanyas, they had a placement in Breaking Bad. They did a cover of Towns' song "Waiting Around to Die," and that's like it's an amazing scene in that show as well. It's like, it's hard to. What do you have to do? What's this? Dan Webb is explain my hat. Yes, absolutely. Leave on Helm, not the Leave on from the Elton John song. Yeah, this was a gift that arrived in the mail from Mark yesterday. Actually.
Yeah, it's Casey's
so
birthday next week, and I saw this hat, and it's from Nashville from a drum shop in Nashville, and so I sent it to him as a birthday.
So cool.
Gift.
He's my hero. Leave everyone. I mean, these guys know how much I love Levon. He's sort of trying to live my life after Levon, except for the tax evasion and all that.
And not to get off topic too much, but Amy Helm posted a picture of her dad.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Oh,
the story behind it too, where you realize how dark it got for Levon. How we all consider. I'm not even. It was more like he couldn't afford to pay his taxes. It was more the reality, but how far down from like where I place, and we all do, the band and Levon in this like mythical space, and it just literally like. He got down way worse than I am right now. Like it was like, oh my God, man! Like,
the whole thing is can't sing, can barely
just your life is over, right? Almost, right?
But he went out and just like went after what he loved, right? And just like I'm gonna be the best blues drummer there is out there. It's like
it's pretty awesome.
Story is so brilliant.
Goes and retrains and stuff. Yeah. So the Levon hat is obviously the Levon that we all know and love. And actually, if it was like. If it was true to life, it's spelled with an A, to be honest. If you read his biography, it's Levon Helm, but he changed it.
Oh.
Anyways, we know who we're talking about here. So let me get my first pick in. Yeah, bring that bell, buddy. So this band, I guess, is called June Star. I had never heard of it. I don't even really use Spotify, but I had been using it and listening to this Americana playlist. This guy pops up. It was one of those things, which is what I do, rewind, loop, repeat 1,000 times of this song. This song is 1 minute and 40 seconds long. It has all the things that I need, like steel guitar, crusty Telecaster, like big Richard Buckner, Sun Volty type drums. He's obviously a sad dude. His songs are kind of like, they're very Bucknery in how they sound. But I just love them. It's what I've been listening to for weeks now at this point. It's just amazing.
He has that great line. Is it like, I'm going to live though, but I'm going to live? Right?
Yeah, the other one is like, there's a reason that I can't remember the things that I forgot. I'm starting to think that I will never die. It's just like that was the line where I was like, yeah, I get that. Where you're like, how long is this going to take? But that was the line that hooked me. And then listening to his writing is it's amazing how he writes songs. I really like, and he has like 18 albums. The biography on their website says June Star is a band formed by, I forget his name, Glenn something at this point. In 1998, they have toured a substantial part of the U.S. and are now bankrupt. That's like that's their whole like mantra on there.
That is every band. That is so many bands.
Absolutely, it's very relatable. But it's nice to discover music. It's strange to me that I never heard of him before because quite literally he fits right into like Sun Volt, Richard Buckner, Grantley Phillips, Grantley Buffalo. That whole thing is where I'm just like, how did I not see him play with them or be involved with them at all? There's like. It's one of those things you look at as like 500 views of nothing. No one even knows what's going on with this guy.
When you tipped me off to him a couple months ago, I was just
super strange.
I'm like, why? It's almost like Buckner, like you said. It's like you look at the amount of people that are actually following him, and it's the exact same as Buckner. It's so cute.
Well, it's not the most popular kind of music, I guess. Obviously, it turns out
it's good music, so it's criminal. People should know. People should
absolutely.
know.
This is one of those ones that I think if you are watching this, check it out because it's absolutely like it's one of those surprising things. How come this isn't more on everyone's radar?
And where is he now?
Who knows? Bankrupt, I guess, somewhere. I think he's from Cleveland, if I remember correctly.
If you put that photo up,
not Cleveland, Cincinnati. Excuse me.
He looks like
See, he does his photos at Sunset. He's like us. He's got some, but he looks like Buckner. Even it's crazy. It's just like him. Anyways, it's a song that I will put on repeat. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds long, like I said, so I could listen to it like 100 times a day, no problem at all. Anyways, so we'll go to Steve's second pick. You can ring me here. What do we got here, Steve?
My ding. I dinged you. So this pick actually it's lyric free. It's the only lyric free on the entire A.C.R.O.N.M.
It is not 1.5 minutes long. It is 7 minutes.
No, it's many, many minutes. It's music. It comes out of an era that might be termed fusion.
There you just lost half our audience.
Probably where my head was more at when the Pixies came out. So it's kind of a celebration of that, but I kind of rediscovered it lately because there's not too many songs from that genre that can hold a groove that long, like without just going off into some world that nobody wants to hear. So, there's being a drummer, of course, it was after that drummer, I thought he was pretty special. But did you have a picture of the bass player?
I believe I do. Yes, he's
put that up. Lee Sklar. Okay, Lee Sklar plays with Phil Collins.
Apparently, he plays bass with one finger. Is that right?
I think he's on Rosanna or a lot of those Toto.
Oh, well, now you have my attention.
You're right. He's a 70s session musician from LA. He's on everything.
I did see a photo of him with Uncle Phil Collins.
And he holds it down on this pick. So if you listen to the pick, there's a bit of jazzy stuff. The guitarist was in the James Gang. After Dominic Troiano was in.
The bass line in Rosanna is outstanding.
Yeah, it fits him. I'm not sure, but he's on a lot of the Toto stuff. That's Lee Sklar, and he just holds it down in the song. Doom, 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 right? It's kind of like a meters thing, or almost what like the Beasties were trying to do with their instrumental thing. But then Billy Cobham, of course, takes it a little further.
So is Cobham the band leader? I don't know.
He was, yeah. So being the drummer, band leader, that can sometimes lead to disaster. But he made a career off it.
This song actually reminds me. Well, now obviously there's new age people that are kind of playing now, but Wolfpack, have you heard of them?
Yep.
Like it's insane.
That's angering because it's so crazy.
Wolfpack.
Is that it's? But that's
and they're big. They're really big. That group can fill Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah. But it's just like today when I was listening to it again, I was just like, because you got to take a few listens. I was just like, oh, this is what that's reminding me of. It's like obviously those guys are probably inspired by, Billy Cobham, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to keep it alive.
Yeah, it was a nice. As listening to the playlist, it was a nice sort of like escape from what the rest of the playlist sort of is centered around.
It's a palate cleanse.
Yeah, I thought it was a commercial at first. I didn't know what was happening. That was a Spotify commercial.
Yeah.
It's a bowl of hot water and lemon.
I love that. That's what I put in the middle song with my picks, usually a palate cleanse.
Yeah, it's a Swiss Chalet.
All right, we're moving on to Mark's second pick of the final episode. This is a great pick, great choice, great album, great writer.
I picked this one obviously because A.C.R.O.N.Y.M, the Vancouver connection. So I was trying for the Vancouver connection for the first two. But this came out in 2004. We played it in our van. I don't know how many times.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's still on repeat, and it's like the more I listen to it, the more you fall in love with. Like to break it down and kind of be like, okay, how can I analyze this? I love that the guitar leaves so much space for the vocals, the piano, and the drum.
Is like this song is a piano player's dream.
It's going and going, but it's driving,
it goes the whole time.
The drummer,
it's all rhythms. It's all about rhythms.
The piano and drummer are just driving the song along, and then it gets to that other din it. It's like it's so good. It's such a brilliant tune.
I would consider this guy to be severe. Maybe he isn't, but severely underrated as one of the country's, if not North America, like pop songwriters, like. Up there with like Tegan and Sarah and like
the new pornographers have probably done better under his leadership than his own emblem, his own name, right? But
like the Slow Wonder, this album, the first three tracks on this album, because I think the first times again, because I always do this, we got through the first three tracks and then started the record over again. Those first three are three of the strongest lead-off tracks that I can think of on a record. Like the opening song, Miracle Drug, it's so intense. It's like, wow, what's this record? Here's what we're gonna give you. Like, good luck.
And that's it. But think about the writing in 2004. You know what I mean? Like, what was coming out at that time?
Is that what year this record was? That's crazy.
So he was on. That was Matador and Last Gang that put it out. Imagine being on Matador. You know what I mean? Like that was a dream back in the day.
Yeah.
So, but it's a brilliant tune. It's just
this is a band too where when I try to if I was gonna sit and try to learn the song, I'd just be like, what's going on here? It's awesome. I just intimidatingly good.
But when you break it down, that piano line is so good.
Yeah. It's like a Casio tone almost, but it's
but it's
aggressive.
The whole verse, it's just going all over. It's carrying the whole song, and then in the chorus, then it just slams. He gets to like just nailed notes. And
I love and vocally, I love how he actually holds on words. He just and then leaves space. And then juts right back in, right?
I was just thinking, what's the word he uses in this song?
Do re mi. Is it the do re mi line?
No, it's like a non sequitur he uses in the song, I think, or maybe that's in the first song.
He does.
The first three tracks.
Hold on a second.
The word he actually uses the word non sequitur, which is like good. That's an amazing little punch to add into it.
Foils my 1 and 2 syllable theory, right?
Yeah,
there you go. Good song. That, by the way, that album is one of the, as someone who does fair amount of mastering, that is one of the loudest records known to man, and it works.
And the first song is so, that's what I mean, that guitar intro to the first song is just like,
yeah,
it sets
you ever
it
want to compare, if you want your stuff to be louder, compare it to that, you'll never get there.
Now here's the thing, who brought it to the band? Who played it
Steve
first?
did.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay,
that was one of the records that you had on your like limited amount of space on your, you always had that record on.
That's right. Yeah.
On your 4 gig iPod, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, that this is definitely a record. If you don't know this somehow, and whatever, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
You should check the Slow Wonder and all of their work, like Brill Bruisers, the new pornographers. That song is also like.
Yeah.
There's so many songs, and they're just one of those ones. And I feel like somehow, maybe just because I don't know, but I feel like they are definitely under the radar of where they,
Oh yeah.
I put them in that Sloan category of like bands from our country who are like should be.
His use of rhythm though is amazing. Like some songs are just based on a rhythm a lot of the time. It's just.
Yeah. But the guitar line over top of it, it's so good. It just cuts everything.
Everyone picks their part up.
It's so good.
Yeah. All right, ring me in. I'm coming in with a big one. Oh, this is a big one, of course.
Oh yeah.
Who doesn't know and love this song? It's just such a classic song. Traveling Wilburys, which is insane to think if you can just dismiss it, but to have those 5 guys in one place making music and writing, and there's, for my money, I don't know if there's anything a better sort of supergroup ever, let alone the fact that like Harrison writes this song when he's how old? Hold on a second. So this picture's great because this is how old these guys were. This was on Facebook, I guess, or something, right? Like, hold on. So Orbison was the oldest at 52. I feel like when I saw this, like in the 90s or whatever, that they were already like 60 for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I was like,
this is my theory. This is my theory on that. People smoked back then. So it ages you so much, right? Like,
I mean, Tom Petty's only 37, and which doesn't look old, but like, I just remember seeing this going, oh, these guys were famous in like the 60s and stuff. Like Jeff Lynne really never looked any different. I feel like Jeff Lynne is always wearing a disguise that's not really what he looks like anyways.
Yeah.
Like look at that. He looks like he's going to rob a liquor store or something. He's like making it.
Do you think Dylan and Lynn got in an argument because they wore the exact same thing to the party for the photo shoot?
Yeah, Rita. Oh yeah, who knows, right? Like, did anyone? But I mean, if you get into the deep story of how that all happened and how they went to rehearse, Harrison had written a couple songs and they're going to rehearse at Dylan's house, and then everyone shows up and they get Orbison. It's a pretty great story, and obviously just a song like I don't know. Is there anything at all wrong with the song? Everything. You got Jeff Lynne producing it, making it sound like a Tom Petty classic,
and you got the 12 string just rolling along.
Yeah, you have all those things. Like you have Harrison leading in with Orbison taking over vocals, and then you hit the double whammy of the ultimate nasal injection of Tom Petty and Dylan at the same time. Like just everybody. It just drops into that part, and it's the greatest moment.
Lots of syllables on this song too, by the way.
A lot of syllables.
Multi-syllable.
Yeah, and of course this came out, I believe, posthumously after Roy died. I think, is that right? I don't know if I remember.
Was it 87? When did it come out?
Well, the video for End of the Line, they had a rocking chair in his place because he had passed by the time the video came out for that, which is the same.
It just, for me, I think it's like 87, 88 or something.
Yeah, that's what I think. Is it that early? Again, that sounds insane to me, but there you go. Pat from Windsor. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I would agree. It's just like, we luckily got to cover End of the Line with Great Lake Swimmers, which is out there on the internet somewhere floating around, which I think we did a pretty good job of, to be honest. But definitely one of those. I mean, I don't know. What else can you say? You have 5 superstar writers and singers performing and making a record. It's in,
But that they did it in record time, though.
Yeah, well, that's what they're pros. Yeah, for sure. All right, what do we got? Steve? Oh, Steve chose the next pick here, which this is also a
great tune. This is a great tune.
Great choice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Miss Ohio. Look at Miss Ohio by Gillian Welch. It's oddly enough, it's sort of a coming of age song. Like it's really a celebration if you look at it of her liberation or freedom. She's breaking out of the nest, but the song is delivered so sad that like you can't hear it without crying. It's like she's like, Mama wants to, put away. She wants to put the wedding dress on me, and I'm like, I just want to drive around with the top down.
The rag top down, yeah.
The rag top down, and the lyrics are all going down. He knows
It's
that.
like this is getting dark.
Oh,
quick.
look at this!
Shit.
Blah, 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 blah. And then
It has one of the most amazing country lyrics. You know you're going to mention it. I will if you don't, but it does. When
Say
I want to do right, but not right now.
I want to
it's like
do right,
one of the ones where it's just like, all right, you win.
Yeah.
Like it's
delivered
that's
so
perfect
sad,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh man. And then there's no drums in the song until there are, which is like 2 minutes in. Like when I heard that, I was just listening. I was so deeply listening to the song, and then all of a sudden, drums come in like halfway through. I'm like, there was a drummer sitting there. It's just like
for so long.
But does that blow your mind? Because you're like, as a drummer, it's like I wouldn't have sat there for 2 minutes.
You know me, like I want to play along.
Do you know offhand who produced this record? Was this during? This is pre-Dave. This is old, right? This is super old.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying to. Yeah. My gateway into Gillian Welch was in the Napster days of all things, when you would sit and like download music, and it was "Time the Revelator" was the song that I knew first from her, and it was like a song that I had on my on my computer. Mm-hmm. Here you go, because she's married to Dave Rawlings now. They actually, I think they just won a Grammy for the cowboy song that's in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which is an incredible song.
They're amazing together.
The one thing that I love in this song, though, lyrically, is that she rhymes Atlanta and then she goes Fanta for fantasy, and then holds it and it goes Fana-C. Yeah.
Right.
Like lets it linger so it rhymes.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Yeah. She's also got another. I mean, a pretty identifiable voice when you hear her. It's like, oh, there's Gillian. You know, so right away you can. See. I say Gillian. Is it Gillian or Gillian?
I believe
it's Gillian.
Yeah.
I don't know. So. If I see a G, I'm a hard G type of guy. So that's how I roll. All right, that was good. That's a good one. I like hearing that one pop up because I'd heard it over the years, and then it came again. All right, do it.
Yeah.
Hope that wasn't too loud.
I love the word ragtop. That's like in any song.
It's kind of symbolic. The ragtop, like just a car, the freedom of a car, but especially a convertible, right? Driving
around with the ragtop.
Yeah. What's that tell you? I just want to go cruise, basically. Like I want to go have fun and be free, basically.
Not being married.
I know we're gonna go on, but it encompasses so much of summer and everything and freedom, right?
Yeah.
Just by saying ragtop.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful lyric.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty awesome to see her and Dave Rawlings walk out on the Grammy stage dressed like total cowboys, and there's just like everyone, all the kids are like, who are these people? What is this?
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
They're
people, man. It's like it's like you root for that. It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, so with this Emitt Rhodes, to be honest, I didn't know much of his catalog until you put this on the list, and it's pretty great. Explain.
It's that's not. He's a better. He looks like me right now. Funny
a little bit Jerry Garcia mixed in.
Yeah,
he's learning to play drums on this particular.
Okay, so for whatever reason in my Spotify algorithm, this song popped on and I was just floored instantly. The piano comes in, like it's just the melody is driving it in, and I'm just like, what is this? Instantly hit like or love, because I'm like, want to dive more into it. And it's just like, he has an interesting backstory. He was in a band called the Merry-Go-Rounds in like the mid 60s. That wasn't working out for him, so he went off on his own, took money from that and parlayed it into turning his parents' garage into a studio, recorded all of these songs on a 4-track, then dumped it over to an 8-track to do all the vocals. And it sounds so good. Like there's minimal equipment. It's obviously straight in, right? And it sounds just so brilliant. It's obviously infused and inspired by the Beatles. But I
He does sing like McCartney, doesn't he?
Yeah, and
I was saying before this, I thought it was an obscure Sloan song. It sounded like Patrick so much when I first heard it. I was like,
so it's a brilliant tune. He plays everything himself: drums, sings, bass, guitar, piano.
He's greedy then. He's a greedy fellow.
He knew what he wanted to do, but this is where it gets interesting for him and then I'll stop after this. But so he signs a record contract, and then the people that signed him to a record contract want him to put out an album every 6 months for 3 years, and he can't do it. He can't keep up because he's recording everything himself, and they sue him for $250,000.
When?
In the early 70s, and he drops out of music, right? And then goes to, he's like, he doesn't want to do that anymore. So he pulls out of music and he goes to just be a producer and all of that stuff. And then later in life, kind of comes back to recording. But
they sued him for $250,000. They must have given him a hefty advance to start with, right?
No,
trying to recoup.
I don't.
Why did he be like, oh, you owe us that, so you better give us the money instead?
I don't know. It didn't get into it when I was doing research for it, but there is a documentary about him called The Solo Beatle. So, and I guess it won some awards and all that stuff. But it kind of leads into Casey's next one. Is he actually had a song in the movie The Royal Tenenbaums? So that kind
of yeah, absolutely.
Also,
that's a beautiful segue. We've been working on segues for 8 episodes, and we finally have one. That's incredible. Yeah, well, so I guess you can ring it. We're gonna go to another. Again, I did a little promo for the show yesterday where I. Like Elliott Smith is you either, I don't know if you either love him or you hate him, but if you understand him and love him, then you understand depression and sadness and sort of, he obviously, succumbed to that and that kind of stuff. This song, I don't know if there's a lot of incredibly happy songs in his catalog. They're generally dark. They're generally like acoustic, beautiful little ballads. This one is obviously, he's sort of a legend. I think if you don't know him, I don't know why you don't, but it's maybe because you're super happy or something. Who knows? But his song, the song "Needle in the Hay," there is I would recommend you go watch the Kermit version, because the Kermit version will change the way you hear the song forever. But if you haven't seen the Royal Tenenbaums, again, spoiler alert, you should go watch it right now. Get off here and go watch it. But it literally, I think that movie is probably, it's in my top 3 films ever at this point. I've seen it a million times, and it's amazing to me to think how much this song makes that scene happen. With it starting when the door closes and Bill Murray has just found out and he's laying on the couch and the kid's like, do you want to play word games? He's like, no. He's given up. And Luke Wilson is obviously gonna go do something pretty dark. The way that you're someone who's in film, Mark, and has been, the way that scene is shot in the mirror where it skips and it clicks and it goes back and forth with this song underneath it is absolutely one of the most devastating. I had never even heard the song before that scene, similarly to one of his other great songs, which is the credit rolls in Good Will Hunting, Miss Misery, he somehow was writing like soundtrack music, probably.
Is the same album? It might be the same album.
It probably is. It's from the same time.
And his way was with he'd use everything was always on tape. So he did a lot of recording.
Well,
tons of double
vocals, triple vocals.
Yeah.
Just managed you think about intensity, and to have just an acoustic guitar and a vocal create that much tension is very. The little progression in that song, there's not much to it. It starts off with 2 chords back and forth, but then it does that, and it has this little thing that leads into the vocal. And honestly, go watch the Kermit version, because when Kermit hits the vocal, it's the happiest version of the song you'll ever hear.
But I like how Kermit is actually cutting off his
the guy, whoever's behind those videos. Apparently, there's a whole record that's called Sad Kermit, where he takes songs and Kermit sings them in a sadder way, but that's so Elliott Smith is my last thing.
This song is one of my faves.
It's incredible. I mean, you don't want to listen to him all the time, to be honest. If you do, then you should talk more to people, because Elliott can be. That's a dark place. I really enjoy it, but it's definitely heavy stuff, man. It's not like happy go. It's not a nice afternoon out.
No, but to know that somebody else is kind of along with you, right? For the
empathetically ride, and empathy.
That's right.
There you go. That's a top track for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That literally brings us to the end of our song section. But like I said, I wanted to add in a special section today with my cynicism. And I know I'm not supposed to do this. And music is absolutely subjective. What I think doesn't matter. What these guys think doesn't matter. If you like something, you can like it. We're just having fun and joking around. Mm-hmm. And I know what I don't like, more so than I would say I know what I like. I heard on the radio the other day the worst thing I have ever heard in my life. The worst song, which involved 3 different artists that I really don't like. One I really don't like, but the other 2 I don't like that much. It was the song Sunshine of My Love by Cream, covered by Rob Thomas and Santana. It is the worst thing you will ever hear on this planet. This is my pitch for that. There's nothing worse than this song that you will ever hear. Mostly because of my dislike of Eric Clapton. And you guys know how I feel about Eric Clapton. I just do not like his music. And it turns out he's like a bigot and a racist and all this other stuff too. So, or apparently, if you've heard his diatribe.
Yes,
and now he's teamed up with Van Morrison to protest mask rules. So it's just like, that pushed me over the edge. And then Not a big Santana fan, and Rob Thomas from that whole like smooth with a V thing. I got in trouble before for making fun of this song, actually. So them covering this song and making it this like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like, not to be negative, but I will be. This is the worst thing you will ever hear. Look it up and just maybe you'll like it. But man, I do not. I had to do it. And like I said, this is just, it's in my opinion, it means nothing. Everyone's trying to make music that they love and believe in. I just don't think they believe in that. I honestly don't. I don't think they put that out and we're like, this is awesome.
It's by committee, right? It's just like this.
Yeah. I mean, Clapton, come on. Anywho.
Well, he tried to get into the band, right? So that's
well, I mean, yeah. It's the thing is, Eric Clapton is in every music documentary ever filmed about anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. What does Eric Clapton think? And who cares? That's what I like. Why do I was like 15 minutes of this documentary is Eric Clapton talking about Levi Helm? I don't care. I don't want to hear what you had to say about him. I don't care. So just please stop interviewing Eric Clapton for music documentaries. Yeah. He'll be on ours eventually one day. I've never heard of Elliott Rude. All right, let's move on from the songs. We're talking about British Columbia, one of the greatest provinces in our country. Sort of the end of the line when we go west. Obviously, there's not much, go play in the ocean after that. But like I said earlier, I didn't realize just how many venues and towns we actually play in BC. Like you can think of, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 in each place, maybe. But there's, 10 venues in BC that we play. And there's so many. It's just such a great spot. They have probably, I would argue, the best festival scene in all of the country. I can't think of anywhere else that has more. You have Salmon Arm, Fernie.
They have Sasquatch.
Caslow, Sasquatch, and something else will come back anyways. Vancouver.
Salmon Arm.
Yes, I mentioned that one.
Oh, you did.
Island one. So you have all, and not to mention like Smithers,
North,
which is the Solstice Festival, maybe.
And the island. Then you go to the island. There's more.
Comox Fest, we've done them all. The Big Day Out, Cumberland Wild, all that stuff. So it's obviously the mountains know how to party, as we've discovered over the years too. So when we first get out into BC, our first stop is generally a little town called Golden, which we love a lot. This is the best picture I could get of the Rockwater. I know it's pixelated. There's not a lot of evidence of this place existing.
Funny, that's how it looked to me for a long time.
Yeah, it's actually realistic when you're there. It's Golden is a great little sort of mountain biking, mountain ski town kind of thing. Yeah. I think it's pretty close to a hill, but it's not right in there anyways.
One of the first places I saw with a Tesla station.
There you go.
Well, they already set it up.
Here's a family thing that I just found out this year. I have a great grandfather that is buried in Golden, BC.
Let's go find him. We go next time.
Was he in the train? Was he a miner or the train?
It was like he was engineer. So
because I have relatives in the train. Oh, wow. This is where the last spike was around there, wasn't it?
Well, if they stopped there,
Revelstoke.
Yes, there you go.
Oh, right, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Golden has become over the years. I mean, we can't get into all the stories of that place. There's some great nights with Shred Kelly. It's a legendary. Pat Lagar is the guy who runs the place and has been booking us there for, I don't know, now probably 12 years. Who knows?
Long time.
And it's definitely one of those stops on our tour where we eat the best meal of that week. Sure. Although there's some comparables, but that meal at the restaurant there is they have like all-star chefs, and we eat well. We know where we're staying. The shows are always super fun. Not for Noah. Our sound tech Noah suffers through the crowd because the crowd is intense. The thing about British Columbia, and this is what I wanted to mention, is that this is kind of a funny. I thought of this the other day. Is that the Matthew McConaughey line in Dazed and Confused? When you go to British Columbia towns. Like we get older, but they stay the same age. Like kids, it's actually true. Like we keep getting older, but the snowboard crowd and they're new every year. They just new people live there all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You rarely see like people there multiple years. Like we will come back, but then there's new kids there that are in the hills or whatever, right? So I thought of that line when I thought
that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, when I thought about the Rockwater or any of these other towns, like Revelstoke down the road a little bit is where we would play our next show in a crazy club called Traverse, I guess it's called that one. Yeah. And so BC in general.
Do you remember the first show we played though in Golden? Where the club was changing. It's just short story, but the club was changing hands, and we're like, there's no sound guy, there's no sound equipment, there's nothing. And
no one
like,
showed up.
Tech.
Oh, but they were like, sound tech, thank you. But so. We just went upstairs because they gave us our accommodations. They're like, it's kind of changing hands, and we didn't know the show was booked. And then people came and knocked on our door, and then we went and played the show to like, I don't know, 5 to 10 people or whatever.
Us doing
well, I mean,
sound.
those rooms upstairs. There are some legendary. BC has a bunch of them. We'll hopefully get to some of the other ones. But that upstairs of that bar, there's some. I mean, our stories alone are pretty funny, but I can't imagine what other things have happened up there. Just the bands will stay up there if they can't afford to be anywhere else. We've luckily moved on to like stay at a hotel outside of that place, which allows for some sanity. But yeah, Pat is one of those guys, a total music lover, restaurateur, and like a creator of things. He is such a good guy. I once forgot my bass pedals in Golden because we loaded out and we were trying to get out of there to make it to Nelson. And he drove them to Nelson, got them to me about an hour before our show that started at 11 p.m. He drove all day, took the ferry. He's that good of a person and then he came to the show and we had a great time. And Nelson's a whole other story, which we'll get to. But when a promoter who will go to that length is like, I don't know, man, that's pretty. And BC we'll be talking about Paul Henricks in Nelson, like Bill Jaswell. There's so many. So moving on.
One thing, just to go back, it's almost like a Joel Plaskett line for the rooms up above there. It's like questionable things happening to questionable people.
All of it, yeah. There's a lot of strange stuff going on there.
Anyways,
so we would travel through. Another great spot is this is a shot of the Northern Bar. Yeah, this is us. It is. Now this is the home base of kind of alt country. Actually, they're called Stoke Folk, to be honest. The band Shred Kelly. This is the Northern Bar in Fernie, a great spot that we have played many times. Here's a shot of us here. This might be the day that I almost died. Remember when I cut my leg open and then we drove away?
Oh, yeah.
So I made it. That's a whole other thing.
That was coming into the room to see that. You and your underwear covered by a towel and blood everywhere was pretty funny.
There's a whole backstory, but basically I was like losing a lot of blood and then I got stitched up in the morning in Kamloops and we drove like 9 hours to get to Fernie and then played that night. And it was a great show.
In all fairness, because you couldn't see it, it looked like a murder scene.
It was so gross.
The only good thing was you were alive. It was just like
I mean, that was good. I was pretty happy with that. And Fernie is also the home, like we were talking about, kind of like amazing music festivals. This is a shot of the Wapiti Festival.
Nice.
Which the last time we were there was right during the crazy wildfires where everyone sort of was carrying around like their get out bag, which is, essential things that you would need in case the winds changed. And we could smell the fires the whole weekend, if you remember that.
You could feel the fire. You could feel the fire, the heat of it coming in.
That's a strange sensation where the wind would blow, like a warm wind is a strange, unless you're maybe from the desert or something, but when the air is cool and then a wind blows you and it's hot, that was unnerving for sure. And as it got darker, you could see the glow sort of off the distance. But Fernie in general, another place, the Northern is an awesome rock place. Good food. Everything is great about that spot. Love it. So we've had I think we've played Wapiti a couple times now, 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So let's just move along into the interior a little bit to a place that this is the Hume Hotel in Nelson, British Columbia. So it is
it's home away from home. Come on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
It's definitely one of our favorite spots. It's the kind of place, it's been run by the same family forever. When we go to the restaurant to eat there, the server has been serving us. The same guy is there every time. We see him every single time. Yeah. It's like, it's like one of those things where it's like nothing has changed here. This is just exactly
right. The club is in the hotel, so you just go down from your room, take the elevator down, and there you are.
This is the Spirit Bar, which is so the whole upstairs is this gorgeous old looking place, and the downstairs, I guess it's a 60s 70s vibe, disco sort of vibe downstairs.
It seems 90s to me, but.
Oh, maybe. I mean, you can't really tell from these photos, but it's a very long stage, not a deep room. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I look forward to Nelson, obviously, sort of every time we're going to go there.
We have the whole thing about, I think, BC in particular is there's a few places along the road, out in Winnipeg where you can kind of test drive songs, but it's like, in BC, there's a few places. And
I'm sure we've played a lot of songs for the first time in Nelson, actually. Yeah. I know that's true. Yeah. And the promoter in this town, who we've worked with for many years now, is Paul Henricks, who is, again, one of our favorite people. He treats us like better than he needs to, for sure. He also books and runs this little festival here. This is a hidden gem. It's called the Caslow Jazz Fest, or Jazzlow, as they've recently possibly renamed it. Yeah. The stage is floating on the water. You can see it there. This is one of the, I mean, this is a destination festival, to be honest. If I were to give people advice on if you're going to go to see a music festival, I would go to this one. There's nothing like it. It's so the setting. It's unbelievable.
Where else can you actually play a set, and once you're done, you can dive right off the stage into the water?
Yeah. If you look, literally the backstage is you can jump into an inner tube and just go float around after with every. There's people that are watching the shows from behind there too, which is pretty great. And Paul has turned that festival around. It was one of the ones that was sort of not doing as great as it could. And Paul brought in, like, among us and other younger sort of bands. And now it's been a great success. Obviously, they've had to shut down for a couple of years.
You can't play jazz forever, right, Steve?
You got to switch it up. Yeah. And we're usually at about a 5-year rotation with that festival. So 2 have gone by. We're going to be back there soon, I think.
That'd be nice.
That'd be great.
Nice.
Yeah, that's another town. Nelson it's one of the first places. When I took off as sort of not a teenager, but in my early 20s, I just jumped on a train and went out west. I ended up in Nelson for 2 weeks, staying in a hostel.
One night.
It was just one of those, longest night of my life. And not many people know this, but Nelson is 38% people from Windsor, Ontario. So you gotta.
That's
What?
not true.
Come on. Bull crap.
Well, you know how many Windsor people
I know.
were there.
Roughly 40%.
Not 38%, but there's a lot of Windsorites down there.
Yeah.
3.8.
I wonder why they're there.
I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, so basically we have a lot of great friends there. When we go there, there's always a party. There's always like a lot of hospitality, and it's usually a matter of escaping there with some sense left after that. Yeah. But it's always a late night. I think we need to start planning to stay the extra day or something at this point. It's never an early evening in Nelson. No. It's, again, one of those venues where you get to sleep above the place you play in a nice spot, so you don't have to go anywhere.
That makes life so much easier. It's almost like you're on a tour bus, because we can't afford a tour bus, and we're not big enough for a tour bus. So, right? It's almost like that.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah, it is nice.
Well, it's way better. You get a nice shower.
Yeah, and the food.
Yeah, and we stay in basically the same. It's one of those things. They have the band rooms like some other hotels where we're going to be like, oh, here I'm here.
Yeah,
6 months ago I was here. I was like the same pictures of these wacky old ladies on the wall and all the other stuff. Right? They have that amazing People of Nelson book. That is
that's a really old hotel from the gold mining era. So there's the photos in there from those times, right? And
Ryan, who runs it and stuff, it's his family that's been continuing to keep it going on, and he's always been so amazing to us. It always feels like a big event, when we're there. So there we go. Oh yeah, Caslo did online. That's right.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's Paulie, because Paul will make it happen no matter what. He'll figure it out. It'll be great to be live again, but so then we had there's places, Kamloops and Kelowna we go to a lot as well. Kamloops, the Blue Grotto, I think it's called, that we work with another great promoter up there called Bill Jaswell. Bill, how are you, man? Hope you're doing well.
Well, you had us at the what was the ski hill festival that we played?
Yeah, I forget. That was a crazy day. We played Newfoundland and BC in the same day.
Oh my God! Right.
Remember that one? We played St. John's, Newfoundland, and Kamloops on the same day.
Was it 3 flights or 4 flights? 3.
3, I think, and then a couple sprinter vans. Well, that was pretty great. That's a long way away for 2 shows. How did that even happen? That's nuts. So Kelowna, Penticton is one I wanted to mention because we've been having a couple shows. We've only recently started going there to the Dream Cafe. I think it's where it is. I just could get an outside shot of it, but the Dream Cafe in Penticton, which at first was sort of a little intimidating. It's like a very quiet, small cafe place, and we walked in and where I always get like, oh man, we're too loud. This is not. It's
funny that you can be intimidated by a small dinner crowd.
I know how
of adults,
but the seated thing, it's a huge
because they're sitting right up to you, like right next, eating their dinner while you're trying to play.
I don't have a problem with that. My whole thing is because you're it is intimate, but it's just can you play the exact same way that you want with the energy that you want? How does that actually? Yeah.
It's a challenge, huge challenge. Yeah.
But our shows that we've had there have been awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
You go in again. It's people who are those are true music people, like blues, jazz people who know, the general artists who come through there are pretty high caliber. Again, there's the apartment you stay right there. Everything's in one place. Food is awesome. But again, one of those places where when I first walked, I was like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna go over here. And it, amazing times. We actually probably sold more merch in that place than any of the other ones in BC recently because it's such a great crowd.
Well, I feel sometimes our show benefits from that because that's when we can actually slow it down and actually talk to people, much like this, right? Just because when you're at a rock club, you can't talk to a single person. But
we can literally have.
You can really engage with one person in a small club.
Well, where I sit on that stage, there's that one little wood, and then there's a table. So basically, there's 2 people, like a couple having a date. Like I could hear it was going well. The guy was doing great. I could overhear during songs. They were right there. So it's one I really enjoy it. I'm actually excited to go back to that place. Because Kelowna, great town too. The Habitat is a venue we played. I don't believe that's around anymore.
I think it's closed.
I don't imagine it could be those places. Whistler, we got to talk about because Whistler is an awesome town for us. I found this photo, just sort of like this mashup photo I found online. But yes, we do get crowd surfing in Whistler.
Well, we get people breaking into the show.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. That felt good.
Jumping off the roof and in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Becca.
No, that's not just that. There was a night we played. That's the Garibaldi Lift Company, which sits right at the base of the ski hill or mountain bike hill, depending on the season. So there's stuff happening right outside. And there were people climbing on the roof and trying to sneak. Someone was trying to ask me how to get in. I was like, I don't know. I'm happy that you're trying. It's very reassuring to us that you're trying to break into our show for free or whatever. But
well, the whole thing is there's no fear. There is no fear of heights. There's no fear of jumping. So
again, Whistler of all towns is one of those like we get older and they definitely stay the same age, if not young. It's like you have a new breed of people coming in. You know, ski bums and all that stuff. Ski workers.
Well, Steve's a ski bum. Steve went skiing.
I love skiing. I skied in where else did I ski? I want to say Fernie, but somewhere else. I know it was Whistler for sure.
Well, Whistler also pretty strong hot tub game. No matter where you stay in Whistler, you're probably getting a hot tub. You know, so we do a lot of schwitzing in Whistler. Me and Noah definitely. It's a good time. I think Ken's got a place there too. We'll stay there next time we're out in Whistler.
There you go.
I would. We got Dan Mangan coming soon. Actually, he should be. I think he's coming along anytime if everything works out. But I did want to touch on one island town. Can you guess which one? Can you guess which town?
Oh yes.
So this is the Waverly Pub and Liquor Store, and this is in Cumberland, British Columbia.
Yeah,
one of the best hidden gem sort of venue. I don't know. Anyone want to talk about this place? Such a good spot.
That was our friend's mural on the side there.
Which friend?
The gal, she muraled up the whole town. The friend of my mom's. Gillian. Her name's Gillian.
Oh yes, I remember. We met her.
My mom's friend's daughter.
She muraled up the whole town.
Yeah, she muraled up the whole town.
It's wonderful.
Well, remember, I think it was one of the first times we played there. There was a guy. It was packed. They jammed it on a Monday night. They're like, nobody shows up on a Monday night, but we sold it out or whatever. And there was a guy painting us as we played on stage at the end, and then
there's some characters
raffled it off. And
oh yeah,
the energy there from moment one. Whenever we played there, it was just
when we played their opening night of their new stage, which is pretty great. Again, and you're talking about these. We have talked about it over this sort of season of shows. The promoters who like really are the ones who put all the risk into it and put all the effort into it. And Vig there, is Amy his partner? I think I might have the wrong name.
I think it's Melissa or Michelle.
Yeah, I think Melissa. They're the ones who take care of us. And quick shout out to the rooms above the Waverly, which we stay in, which are just legendarily. I think they have improved them. I don't know. I feel like I heard they were going to improve them.
Do you remember? You can see through to the other room because there's no door handle.
Yeah. Well, I love that they still have old style TVs that are plugged in and can turn on, but don't have channels. But they try to keep the aesthetic of this is a hotel room. This is still like. And I've never seen a bathroom with black walls. The bathroom is painted black, which isn't in the room I stay in. It is.
Oh, okay.
It's like you turn the. It's just such an amazing choice. I guess it allows people to not put stuff on the walls for the most part, but black bathroom walls is just something else. It's such a crazy.
I think that is the closest to Dawson City for me by feel.
Oh yeah.
And all of that. Like that's kind of what I related to because when you go up, the rooms are so crooked.
But it's all you need in a right. You know, like you figure out after a little while that's all you need in a place like this. You're spending your time doing what you're doing, and it's a quick little place that you're not going to get wet. You're not going to get rained on. Essentially, you have a place to sleep. Yeah. But I mean, the shows we've always had in that place, and the sort of friends we've made, and the late nights, and then being involved with which I think is now called Cumberland Wild, but was called Big Day Out, their festival there, which we've played a few times as well.
Like you said, Vig's been so amazing to us. You know what I mean? Like he's treated us.
Yeah. And Vig is one of these guys who everyone knows. It's a very small town. There's three towns essentially. It's Comox, Cumberland, and Courtney. Is that right? Yeah. It's like these three little mountain towns that are sort of all one thing. But Cumberland is the hippiest one, I think. It's the most sort of rustic or whatever. You know, it seemingly anyways. And we always look forward to being there. I don't know. There's the Queens in Nanaimo that we also play, but we don't have that big of a connection to the Queens. Although we have a great story of the waitress eating our rider when Noah.
It happens.
Well, because our rider was there's not really a green room, so our rider was actually out in the hallway, and then I'll let Casey take it from here.
Oh yeah, well, so it was a rough night to begin with. It was one of those things where it was like midweek. It was just like we knew they were like fixing the console when we walked in, like they had it torn apart. Remember, like the front house con. Noah was with us. He's just like, oh, here we go. No one was like especially happy to deal with us. You show up at bars and people are excited because it's gonna be great. This was like a locals bar where like no one cared. They did what they had to do. They gave us our stuff and got us set up and everything. And it wasn't a great night, to be honest. It was sort of like, kind of didn't feel amazing. And then Noah, who is never really he's not like a vulgar person or whatever. He just comes over, hand on each of my shoulders. He's like, buddy, the waitress is balls deep in your rider. So the waitress who was working there was in our janitorial closet dressing room eating our hummus and peppers, like just going to town thinking that she was just allowed to eat it. And just like, okay, welcome to Nanaimo, everybody. That was our first experience being in that town. And just like, good luck.
I want to give a shout out to, you were talking hippies. One of my cousin Claude,
he's a fixture out there.
Yeah, he's a Kelowna but he's brought his mom, Aunt Ella, to shows in Nelson, and they dance around, and Aunt Ella was into her 90s up on the dance floor.
Well, she first saw us when we were in Kamloops.
Kelowna.
Kelowna, and sat right in front of us. And so it was like me playing for my grandmother, who would never come to any of my shows because like, what 80-year-old woman would come to the show?
She was awesome.
She would.
And she loved it. It was so inspiring. I was just like, this is so amazing. She's awesome.
It's kind of bummed that you didn't buy anything, though.
Yeah, I know. We had to buy a beer.
We got a couple albums. Come on, you show us your dance. That's fine.
But Claude's been very supportive. I don't know if you knew this, but he puts out every week he puts out something about sort of a deceased ex-musician or something. And he did one he featured us with Runaway, not because we're deceased, but Del Shannon is deceased, and this week he put out his main transmission was on our version of Runaway. So I thought, thanks, Claude. He's supportive. He's always a musical guy, and worked for the Edmonton phone.
The production office is asking me to text Dan Mangan. Mark, can you text him and see if he's around?
Let's do it.
We're having trouble with our special guest.
Is he?
He's not here yet. He's not here yet.
Maybe I thought you had him on sitting outside there.
He's not in the waiting room yet, but that's all right. We have lots to talk about.
We can talk about Claude.
Claude is definitely. There's a lot going on with Claude. Yeah. He's the joke master. He's our joke.
Got the jokes. Yeah, he's quick.
But what's another? I mean, so you have Cumberland, you have Victoria as well. We just during the pandemic lost Logan's Pub, which that's where we started in Victoria. I should have found that video of you in that hotel room in Victoria. It was pretty great. With the robe
with the robe, the first time. Well, the weird thing about Victoria is the very first time we played for nobody, right? That Logan's night that I talked about.
Yeah.
With
Ricky. That's Ricky.
Yeah, well, I called him Jeff, but Ricky.
You called him Jeff?
Well, no, in my promo, I tried to keep his name out. But now everyone knows his name. Let's call him Ricky.
There's no way that he remembers that night. There's no chance that guy remembers it.
But that was like our zero money sleeping in a hostel with TVs, like you just mentioned. Yeah. And then the very next night, we played our very biggest show of the tour. This is back to 2004. Yeah. Vancouver Victoria Jazz Festival or whatever. Yeah. And we made it almost maybe into the four figures, and they put us up at the main Marriott, the Fairmount. Yeah, where they don't have Bible in the drawer, they have the Zen, the Buddhist text.
Right, you were reading that. You were getting prepped with the Buddhist text.
Yeah.
No, that's rock and roll, man. Just one day you're on top of the world, and the next day you're somewhere in the middle.
Did you email him at his email address?
Yeah, I sent it to him today.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
And what's he saying?
What'd he say?
He could be looking after his two kids. I don't know.
All right, talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm going to see what I can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should. Do you have any commercials you can run, Casey?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just us. It's just us.
Well, are we going to go back to baseball this Sunday?
We could.
That?
I'm into it.
Because
Is anybody else? Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, we missed one, but the previous 2 weeks we did on Twitch. We rebroadcast the Blue Jays, right? Yeah. And we are the commentators, and we have a gas doing all the sound effects, and
Well, you're
Trying to
doing the
keep up
sound
with
effects.
Mark.
Kay's doing the color.
Comedy.
I do the play
It's
by.
definitely been fun.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can
yeah,
get this done
yeah.
here. Yeah, I sent him this link. So if our production team, which is me, could just get their shit together.
Tell them, don't use Safari. You got to use Chrome.
So
Yeah, that's apparently the deal. But anyway, let's get to Vancouver anyways. Let's talk about our first trip to Vancouver. And maybe you remember this place. I'm sure you know this picture right
the
here.
railway.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
that's one. I mean, I believe that is the. Or did we play Media Club first? It's possible we played Media Club first. I don't remember.
My recollection is the railway.
I think so.
My
Yeah.
recollection, because it's like we rolled in and
Mhm.
the whole thing is. Oh, that's you sending it.
That's
to
me.
I
Don't worry,
thought
it's the
it was
last
one- I thought it
episode,
was
right?
one
We
of
can do
mine.
anything. It says no one cares.
But you know what? For me, getting out to Vancouver and playing the railway, because I had heard of the railway, it was a special moment. It's just like, okay, we had made it across the country. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
drive like 5,000 kilometers for the worst load in on Earth.
right.
Up the
But
stairs.
Up those stairs.
We were smart back then because all we had was acoustics. We didn't have amps. And Steve had his suitcase.
Yeah.
So we've gotten increasingly dumber over the years because we've added more stuff to carry.
Erin knows. See, she knows. She
There
definitely
you go.
knows, yeah.
She knows.
I would contest that Sugar Nightclub in Victoria is equally as bad, but it is a wider staircase, so maybe that makes it better. Because the railway is like
As long as it's not
down.
raining or sleeting, because it's
Well,
outside.
I'll say this about the railway. It is the worst green room. You have to be a hobbit to get in there.
That's
It's,
right.
it's like a 3-foot door, and it's like there's nothing. You can barely change in there.
Was
Whereas,
that
like,
the year that the TV, the television broadcast came
ZTV.
upon us? Yeah, was that TV? Was that the same
oh,
show?
yeah.
It was a
Boy, that was
CBC
weird.
show,
Yeah.
I don't know, it was only on maybe a year. It was like CBC TV
All of a
show.
sudden,
that
the
we did.
cameras were there, and
I know. I was like, this is our
Yeah,
shot.
yeah.
This is it, man.
I think that was our second or third time there.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been the first
Right.
time out there.
Yeah.
But the railway, I get, yeah, it's right down in sort of where it gets a little sketchy at night, sort of. I mean, it's above a 7-Eleven. How much can you ask for? You know, it's a bar it's the upstairs there above this. I'm not sure if there's a 7-Eleven there now, probably still. They don't close very often, but it's just one of those spots, man. It's just,
I'm just thinking to Vancouver. It's like we've had so many experiences. We had obviously the Junos, which Steve had to, unfortunately, you had to leave that one time. But I mean, we played, had George Strombolopoulos intro us, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was great.
That
was our first Junos experience. It was pretty
Yeah.
Cool. It was pretty awesome.
No, we did Halifax.
Oh, no, Halifax. was
Halifax.
first, yeah. I just the Vancouver one seemed sort of more exciting to me. For
I
some
think
reason.
the best moment of the the Junos for me, obviously you enjoy going to the Junos, but I got to play in the Juno Cup, and then Lanny McDonald taps me on the shoulder before we go to play hockey, and Hockey Night in Canada's playing, and I play poorly because I didn't play hockey at that time. But Ryan Bolt from the Deep Dark Woods is picking me up so he can drive me to go to our show where George is going to intro us, and he's like, do you play hockey? And I'm like, no. He's like, okay, that's good because you were horrible.
The nicest. I can't even imagine him saying it.
Because it was like there's 3,000 people watching you play. It was pretty crazy, especially for hockey. You know what I mean? Like,
we've had like a fun sort of. Yeah, Vancouver's always been great because for a long time we played this bar, which is called the Biltmore, a great spot as well. And Noah, our tech, had worked there for a long time, maybe still does. I'm not sure what the state of. To be honest, I don't know what the state of any live venues are anymore.
Who knows, right?
But that ceiling is like 4.5 feet tall, so it's a very sweaty kind of like low ceiling venue. Lots of fun. Great club to play in.
Well, let's not forget the Olympics. We played the
you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a shot of that too. Here, check
2012?
that out. There's a little shot of our the pans we had made up.
Wait, how do you know that's the Olympics?
I know it is because that's the only place we had those Canadian flag.
We painted those. We hand painted like 100.
Hand painted. There was 100, and it's funny because I remember they were all laid out in my apartment, and my dog walking over some of them, and then there'd be red paint, like because they were didn't have a big place, and we had to like lay them out to dry. But I mean, the Olympic experience was obviously something completely.
Mm-hmm.
I love. Do you guys remember when they drove us to Whistler, and then the whole thing is like, you would think that everybody is organized.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's like you would think that the Olympics are organized. You know, obviously they've hired all these musicians to come play, and they ship everybody up on a bus, and then they drop you off, and the bus goes away, and you're sitting there with all your equipment, and everybody's like, well, what happens now?
Yeah.
And then they showed up in a white van, and they're like, we want the rock band to get in here.
Which one's the rock band?
Which one's the rock band? It's like you have Great Lake Swimmers and us. It's like,
well, it wasn't them. That's not. Yeah, but it's like.
Funny enough, we were the ones they were looking for. And do you remember they had pans in the van?
Yeah,
like,
it was like
pans.
Yeah, it was like I got on the rider or whatever. It was nuts. Yeah, it was like, well, it was definitely like we definitely got like the 10th or 11th round of volunteers taking care of us. The ones that didn't get to take care of the athletes, like
they weren't briefed.
They were not. No. They were just like, can you drive a truck from here to here? Great. Then leave these bands in a parking lot in the rain. Just put them in the corner, and then someone else will come and pick one. Whatever, because that was like the sort of under the like we landed, and of course, if you remember the 2010 Olympics, they didn't start very great. A loser was killed. We landed to see this on
right
TV.
After
we come out all excited. We have shows. It's like this guy had passed away, and then that one arm didn't work. And famously, like I didn't. This isn't bad, but I remember Gretzky like on the back of the truck holding on like he was 100 years old. I'm like, oh man.
Well, the whole thing is like, I felt bad for Gretzky.
It's probably frightening. I would be holding on too. It was just they planned this thing and it just wasn't like amazing.
Well, but then, the whole thing is, we were like the first day, right? Did we play the first day? So
Whistler was the first day. There was no snow on the hills. So there was all this trepidation about, oh my God, our Olympics are going to fail. You could feel it. It was tangible. Like everyone was worried. Then by like 2 days after, which was our show at Vancouver Live, which that photo is from with the pan. It was the day of the first hockey game, and then we had won our first gold. Like that whole story, which I've told before, happened.
With the limo.
With the limo, we don't have to go through that whole one again. But the mood shifted to this like excited, like it all changed, and then the hockey obviously led into the Crosby golden goal and whatever.
Oh, so huge.
I remember leaving because we left. I think. No, it was the week. We were only there the first week, and obviously the gold medal game after the second week. Leaving thinking like, wow, this turned around. How proud we sort of
were. And they rioted. Vancouver rioted.
Well, I mean, not as much as some other cities might have. But Vancouver's a pretty riot. Yeah, they've got some. I mean, it's got a lot of anarchists in Vancouver for sure. But I remember being home for the golden goal and just thinking like, wow, we were a piece of this whole thing. Because our third show at the Ontario House was incredible. There's lots of video of that. Where it was just like lined up. You remember, like it was cool to just feel like for 2 hours before we were even on, people were lined up to get into this beer tent. It was packed and just super crazy.
Dan says he's logging on. He's like, Shiza. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Slow bots need love too. I just came up with that just right now.
Nice.
He's got kids, man. We understand. We know what's up. We'll see if he pops up. There's lots of Vancouver talk left anyways. Richards on Richards. I don't have a photo of it, but classic venue. I mean, we're talking another generation ago.
That is one of my all-time favorite shows. I mean, I've loved playing the Commodore, but when we played Richards on Richards that one time, it was so great. And I think it closed down 6 months after that. It was
with NQR Buckle. It's one of my favorite posters. I should have had it up for this. It's one of the ones I still own. We got to play that place right at the very end of it, I think. I don't know how much longer it lasted. Just a classic one. And then, obviously, as we've been lucky and we've moved up to this amazing venue, which is called the Commodore Ballroom. Right. If you're from Vancouver, you obviously know this place.
Oh, wow. Is that like a 1920s photo?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably just affected. It looks definitely up.
It's old.
Going up. Yeah, the steps going up there, and then it has the arc.
Oh, right. I didn't even notice that. It's like a big band setup. Yeah. So this place is, I mean, this is sort of a goal venue, I guess, for, like Massey Hall would be or any other sort of really great venue. Oh, I think I think someone just chimed in. Shall I bring him in and we'll talk about the Commodore?
Sure.
Here we go. Oh. There he is.
Hey,
yes.
Look at these guys.
We'll stall for you anytime, buddy. We'll stall for you anytime.
Right on.
Yikes. Talk about a jerk move, hey?
No, it's great. I love it.
You arrived exactly when you wanted to.
Well, I had it in my head that it was at like 6 o'clock, and then anyways, sorry, I'm a jerk.
No worries. Nice to see you.
You all look amazing.
Well, you do too, buddy, as always.
How's the family? How are you?
We're good. Yeah. Things considered. Crazy, weird roller coaster as it is. I mean, luckily in BC, at least my kids have been in school. Unlike your kids, you know, I can only imagine what it's like been like in Ontario.
Yep.
But
School's canceled for the rest of the year.
crazy.
They dropped the hammer today. Yeah, but we knew that was going to happen. But
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, like last year in March, you're like, you text me, I'm on vacation or whatever, and you're like, hey, want to join me at the Danforth? It's like, yes, let's do it. It's like 3 days later, all hell breaks loose, and this is like, what's happening now?
It was so weird because like we were like right at the apex of like, you know, it was weird because we were like on tour when it happened, and there was a very defining moment of like, well, Thursday we're on tour, we're playing gigs. Friday we are not playing gigs anymore. Yeah. And I remember like I was staying with my brother in Toronto, and I was laying in bed, and this was like the Saturday or whatever, and I'd adjusted my plans and booked a trip home early to come home and be with the family, and I was like, oh my God, like what if I go to the airport and it's like closed, you know, like in that sort of heightened moment where everything was transitioning so quickly, it felt like we were in the midst of like an apocalypse moment or something like that. And of course the airport, I got home just fine, but geez, you know, like what a whirlwind. And
probably around the time that we flew to England, we had a show in London in February, and everybody knew about this virus, but there wasn't any cases yet. Maybe one case in Canada or something.
I think there was like, when we played our last show with Blue Rodeo, the world number of cases was the population, like I think 2,700 at that time. That's what it was in February, right? When we played. That's right. You're like, oh, well, what's going to happen? And then.
Yeah. No, but they were so careful at the airport. It was almost empty already. Yeah. And that was the February. Yeah. So
I remember just like several days before it all, like March, like 6th or something like that, you know, like when everything shut down on the 12th, I think. And we were planning to go to Mexico like later that month. And this was like literally the first vacation that my family has basically ever taken. That wasn't just to like visit family or something like that, like to actually go away and like put our phones away and, you know, just like sit around and be lazy, you know, North Americans. And so this was like this plan. For years and years, we'd never like afforded ourselves like to spend money on something like that. It always seemed so frivolous. And this was it. This is everything. And then like literally like 2 days or something before it all shut down, in my mindset, I was like, oh, we're still going to get to go do that at least, you know, like Mexico's probably, their numbers aren't too bad, you know. And then like the other crazy thing was that when it all shut down, I was in Toronto and our gig at the Danforth got canceled. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, probably our April gigs are fine. Like, you know, like 2 weeks later, you know, this should pass or whatever.
Did you guys not end up doing you did like a digital show there, didn't you? Did you not record?
We did a bit of a stunt. Yeah. Like, well, because we had 2 nights.
Yeah, that's right.
And the first night we played, it felt like the last night on earth. It was crazy. The vibe in there was just unbelievable. And then the next day we got to clear out all our gig. But you know, like when you have a 2-night stand somewhere, you don't clean up anything. You're like, no. This is like, oh my God, like a gig without a loadout. That's a fucking dream, you know? So like, yeah, like all the lights and everything are on the stage. My guitar, like I didn't even put my guitar in a case. It was like in the stand on the stage. And so we had to go clean it all up. And Don Kerr, amazing Don Kerr, was like, well, we should just like get some buddies down here and we should like play for them and they'll document it. We'll just like put it on YouTube. And that's exactly what we did. So we like cut together a thing. And at the time, you know, the idea of charging for something like that was ludicrous. This was, you know, like 2 or 3 weeks later, it was like, oh yeah, you can charge for this thing. Yeah. But right at that moment, like, you know, you don't charge for YouTube. What are you, an asshole? So, but it was interesting how like that next Monday we released it, and I'd never used the YouTube Premiere feature before. And it's like you watch it at the same time as everyone else for the first time, and there's a chat, and you can like chat with everyone and give them behind the scenes stuff. And it was really interesting because that experience of doing that and like being in the chat, watching the show with them was sort of seminal for me, and it like informed what later would become like a very deep understanding of the online shows, you know, sphere through Side Door.
Right.
But that was informative for me to understand like, okay, it's important it's okay. It's online. Oh, I know there's no kick drum thumping in my chest. There's no beer in my hand. But as long as I feel like something is unraveling in real time and we're experiencing it together and we're discussing it and we're in dialogue throughout it, this can ultimately get me to the end goal, which is feeling connected to, whatever, like it was like 1,100 people or something like that. We all felt connected to this thing in that time. We can all remember the moment when we watched this thing together. And so that's like trying to get there with online shows. That's been the heart of the last year, is just trying to do that, and then trying to like teach other people how to do that, so that it doesn't just feel like this soul sucking bullshit, and it feels like an actual event that is humanly rewarding and like an
Is that to say you were watching the screen as you played, or did it go up right after?
I was watching the screen as it played,
So
and
like
YouTube.
a delay, right? It's a bit, right?
Well, no, because we didn't do it live. Like we performed it on the Friday, just
right.
like and then the guys took it and they edited it over the weekend.
Okay.
And like kind of just like took the best stuff and whatever,
right.
and made it like it was like a 26-minute show basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had already seen it, but I was like watching it for the first time with everybody.
Right. Awesome. Yeah.
So did Side Door evolve from that? Because I mean, obviously Side Door was supposed to be like, you can book your own little shows along the way at people's houses and do all that stuff, which is a great idea, right? It's like, which people need, because venues are going away, right? It's like, we don't have any venues. But then Side Door blossoms right at that moment. Is it the Don Kerr thing that forces it, like gives it that seed?
Yeah, it was a few things. It was so yeah, and to explain Side Door, like think of like Airbnb for shows. Like basically any space is a venue.
Exactly.
You sign up, and then as an artist, you connect in the app, and then you like book a show together. You can like set up a split of proceeds, and then like split those proceeds right at the point of sale. You sell tickets. It's all held in escrow, and then after the show, everyone gets paid automatically based on that pre-negotiated split. And that was like sort of the initial Side Door concept, and we'd run about 350 shows in like warehouses and backyards and bookstores and coffee shops and curling rinks and whatever. And so right at this point, like we think we're sunk. We're like, okay, this is the end of Side Door. We built a platform. It's all about gathering. We can't gather right now. So we spent like a week or two sort of just like licking our wounds and going like, what are we going to do? And we had all these like plans. We had a big partnership with South by Southwest, and we booked like 10 different bands tours to Austin in Side Door venues all throughout America, and like had this huge thing. So that was out the window. And then I was playing on Instagram Live, kind of every night, just like going on for a few minutes and playing a few songs or whatever. And at the time, everyone was doing that. I remember like Chris Martin was playing from home, and Bruno Mars. It was like every famous person in the world plying at their piano.
Did you have a chance to catch the Bon Jovi one by any chance?
I did not.
Do yourself a favor.
Oh my God.
It's rough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Bon Jovi at the best of times, so it's
a good Rod Stewart one too.
Oh, this is a level up, though. Believe me. That's amazing. Yeah.
And so, but I did this thing. I was like, you know what? We have ticketing tech at Side Door. We built this thing, and I was like, well, I'll just put like a Zoom link in the ticket, so like people get in. It wasn't secure. People could have shared the link at the time, and like I didn't know how to figure it out for like audio fidelity, so it just sounded like garbage. I'm like playing into my laptop speaker. And like 400 people bought a ticket for like $6. I was donating the proceeds at the time. This was before I realized that I needed to keep the proceeds to like feed my family. So I was like donating the proceeds, and a few hundred people come in, and we just had a Zoom meeting. And essentially I kept everyone muted, but then throughout the show, like every once in a while, I'd just take a break and I'd go in gallery view, and I'd like find somebody that looked interesting, and I'd just unmute them. And I'd be like, what's your deal? Like, where are you? You're in Brandon, Manitoba, or you're in Paris? Like, what's going on where you are? Like, and it would just became almost like a meet and greet, but where I would like play a few songs and then chat with people and then play a few songs. And then by the end of it, like people were crying and people were dancing in their living rooms. And I was like, oh my God, like this is heavy. This feels like when I pressed end meeting, it felt like I walked off stage. Like I was like, okay, yeah, wow, like that was crazy. And so even though so much about it was garbage, like it getting people into the meeting, we hadn't figured that out, and making it sound good and look good, I hadn't figured that out. The feeling of the connection was like right from the get-go, was right there.
Amazing.
And so, since then we've run like 900 shows, most of them on Zoom. But we basically have two types of online shows now. So you can do an interactive show, which is what we call it. And that's a secure ticketing portal for Zoom. There's no Zoom bombers, no shareable links, totally secure way of ticketing a Zoom meeting, basically. And then we have what we call broadcast lane, which is like a very typical live stream kind of situation, video player and a chat, tipping and all that kind of stuff. And so those are like our two different types of onlines. And so now, as everything's kind of opening up, particularly in the States, where everyone's like, America, let's do it. We are dramatically like trying to like get back the in-person stuff into the platform, because we charged ahead with all this online stuff. So now we're like fixing all the hoops and cracks, technical debt, as it's called, to make the in-person side as polished as the online side.
I would imagine, Dan, the online side is going to stick around a little bit anyways, wouldn't it? Do you think? Like,
Totally.
I feel like seeing what people have done with like, it's access to artists that you just can't get live. For one thing, I saw one thing Kathleen Edwards did, which is awesome. It's like 40 people basically play a few songs and talk about like, you're not going to get that at a show, or you're not going to pay to have that happen live. It's something that can happen. It's there's
good value in it.
Too.
In some ways, it can be more intimate and more real and more like what's the word, like direct and almost naked than like a real show. You don't have the benefit of the smoke and mirrors if it's just like my web type, my laptop camera and so it can be remarkably rewarding. I mean, in my shows, I've chatted with and seen the faces of people in like Ecuador and Indonesia and India and Estonia, Poland, places I've never toured. And they've bought tickets to like every single show I've done, like 12 shows in a row or whatever, some of them. And I've met them. I've seen where they live. I've seen their kids on the screen.
That's pretty great.
And like the other thing is that, I've invested a little bit of money. Like I have, you guys can see like, I've got like a light box that like makes it well lit. I've got a GoPro, so it looks nice. I'm just in my laptop camera right now, but like, I've hooked up my DSLR to my computer. Like it looks good. It sounds good. And I've probably spent, I don't know, like maybe like $800 or $900, early on in the pandemic to like kind of set up my rig here in my studio so that I can do like a proper live stream. But since then, I haven't spent a penny. And so, it's been like a source of income that honestly has kept me going through the pandemic. And I think that the behavior shift, the artists have learned how to do this. Audiences have learned to pay for it and to enjoy it. And like, they do their Chromecast and you see them on their couch and they're like, got a beer, they're all ready to go, And so I honestly believe that there is value in this long beyond the pandemic. Obviously there's like the hybrid show, that's one way. I see like, the idea, like we had Tim Baker play at Massey Books here in Vancouver years ago through Side Door. And it was amazing. Beautiful, beautiful show. 45 people were in there. And I remember kind of thinking like, okay, first of all, this is unbelievable. It was an amazing experience. Tim had a great time. I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, well, if you can sell, whatever, I think Tim could probably sell like 2,000 tickets in Vancouver, And so, why would he play to only 45 people? There's like a cap here. It's nice as a novelty thing. It was like a in between cycles. He just wanted to do it and have some fun and play some like new material and try it out and stuff. But like, we're up against this ceiling of like revenue and, ROI on your time. And the cool thing is that now you could go play a bespoke, cool, weird venue. It could be like an auto body shop or a warehouse or a bookstore, and then hire someone to just like stream it, wander around and kind of like sit down in the crowd and like, make it a slightly immersive experience for people at home. And then you can just sell like a hybrid online ticket of that same show. And with Cider, you can even geogate it so that like only people in that market can access it. So you could continue selling to Vancouver and you could have like VIP, I got to be there in person, tickets, in a cool venue. And then you could continue to, hit whatever saturation point there is in that marketplace. I always feel a little bit weird, like using terms like saturation point and market.
Well, when you said ROI, return
It
on
sounds like-
investment. I was
Yeah, it
like,
sounds like Dan's been in a few business Zoom meetings as well.
Yeah, well,
and
well, and this is like the crazy
No,
thing
but-
with my life in the last couple of years is that I've had to learn this stuff because we have investors. Like I've had to go and learn.
but why
what is
wouldn't
it?
you, though?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? You're not gonna like. You're not
it is
just gonna walk
interesting
around.
because you're sort of surfing as this all happened over the past. I mean, we're past a year now, but the technology for like trying to play together from remotely, that's all coming too, right? Like all of that stuff is going to. There's a space that it needs it, and it's coming along now, right? Like we've had our own issues with trying to like. I'm in LA. I've been in LA this whole time. They're back home, so piecing things together with internet, buffering and all that stuff is starting to get better. So it's. I personally don't think that the online stuff is going anywhere.
No
it's going to be
way.
a part of it. I don't see it. It's different from a live show. You're right though. Even as an add-on to live events, I don't see why that's not going to be automatic now. To be honest, like that's something you seem like you're working on. But there's a lot
crazy not to.
But as you get even a crowd that gets older, they want to go to the show, but they're also like, I could see this from home. There's a few people who are that. I could have just as much fun listening to this in the comfort of my own space or something, right?
And it also doesn't have to be a show, right? Like it could just be an immersive like fan experience. Like the Sheepdogs the other day, they did like a come shotgun a beer with the Sheepdogs. And it was crazy. There's like, I have a video of like flipping through gallery view of like 400 people all shotgunning a beer together. It was awesome. Like I had my shirt off.
I was going to say you were shirtless. Yeah. That's what happens when you lose a bet, right? So.
That's right.
Like a massive high five.
There's no reason why now that this technology exists, and now that when you stop treating it like a bummer version of a real thing, and you start treating it like a brand new opportunity and like a really cool way to reach people, and like accessibility issues, like what about people who are in a wheelchair and being in a venue kind of sucks for them, or what like there are ways that you can reach people and have meaningful interactions with them. That's really special. It's not going away.
I'm going to one of your shows on June 12th, as a matter of fact. Do you know who that is? Not you. Actually, sorry. I'm going to a side door show. Let's say.
Yeah. No. Are you going to? Is it the Tom Odell show?
No. It's. I believe it's Andrew Scott from Sloan.
Oh yeah.
He just said today he's going to be on. So you guys are doing multiple every day. So I understand that. And apparently, you just signed up for it, so maybe,
Our biggest month, I think we had like 110 in a month or something like that.
Okay,
There it is.
Is
that Andrew?
Is that the Andrew one? Yeah, awesome.
Well,
hold on. What am I looking at here?
Well, that's Andrew Scott.
He put this video because there's doing construction in front of his house, so he did this Instagram video playing in front of the Hitachi, the diggers and stuff,
The construction equipment.
You can. Thank you.
We've had
tractors and such.
So it started with Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy did one, and he called afterwards. He's like, "Dude, I just made like $6,000, and I just had the best time. And like, why isn't everybody doing this?
I didn't have to go anywhere. I
Like,
didn't have to load in. I didn't have to do nothing.
Yeah.
And
Well, we were just
so
talking about
then,
load-ins. There you go. Yeah.
So then Patrick Pentland did a couple. Jay Ferguson did one, and so now we've got Andrew Scott. We're hitting for the cycle. We're getting all the Sloans in.
Perfect.
Got to get Jay.
Andrew's
And who's
big.
the other one you're doing on the 12th that you just said?
Tom Odell.
Well, Tom Odell.
Tom
He's
Odell.
a big British kind of piano playing pop star. He's actually
Isn't that the guy who runs
really
Motel
amazing.
6? I thought Tom Odell is the Motel 6 dude.
It is actually.
I'm a big fan because I stay in his places a lot.
Tom Odell, I'll leave the light on for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
I think
he's amazing, and he's like he's got like 10 million monthly Spotify listeners, and he's got this unbelievable voice, and he's really really fantastic piano player, and his songs are just crazy like memorable, and yeah, it's he's been amazing. He's done a handful of shows. Vance Joy's done a bunch of shows. We've been we've been really lucky in that these online shows have been able to attract kind of like way bigger artists than ever would have been interested in Side Door in the past.
To go back a while back, you were talking that you were linked up and you were doing stuff with South by Southwest. So is that going to come back online now that shows are back on full? Are you getting back into that? Is that what you're talking about?
Totally, yeah. I mean, well, it's just, it's kind of happening naturally. Hey, Jude.
Hey, Jude, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to cover your face to put this comment up, but there you go.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, and Jim had an amazing show that had I almost had a heart attack. Vimeo was our supplier for live streaming, and right as Jim's show is about to go live, Vimeo has a catastrophic RTMPS failure, which is the mechanism that receives the live stream from your computer and puts it into the player. It's the keychain, the streaming key. And so I'm on the phone with like Vimeo support, and I'm like, get this thing going, you know? And like, I'm also on the phone with Jude. And I'm also on the phone with Henry, who's at the venue, who's like, I'm just telling him like, press go and then stop, and then press go and then press stop and then press go until it works. And then magically, 17 or 18 minutes late or something like that, it works.
Sounds like it was like live stream.
I lost like a year of my life that day. I was so stressed out. I was trying to keep it really cool. Jude probably could tell, but
we had a hell of a time. What did we try to do? Like, we were trying to play live.
It was Instagram live, but we were trying to like control it ourselves. The best was I was swearing and I didn't realize we weren't muted. Then my mom afterwards is like, Mark, you were swearing too much during that whole show. And I was like, oh, I was on.
Yeah, in retrospect, like it'll be documenting sort of how the pandemic works, watching a bunch of older dudes trying to figure out how to do things. And just like, we didn't know they could hear us. We're like, God damn.
Oh, sorry.
Well, like Dan was saying, it's like we bought lights, got our DLSR going, all that stuff. Steve has the scrim right behind him. It's like you're trying to do everything you can and trying to jump in and learn stuff. Right?
Oh man, it was hard.
Yeah, I think Dan's. I mean, I know you're immersed in this stuff, but I do think it just becomes another new. It's even. You're right. It's not further away. It's actually more intimate in a way. Where at first it seems like, because I felt that way the whole time. I'm like, I don't know if this is like a thing. Like, is this how it's going to go? But there is a certain connection a level you can get to with people that just doesn't really exist in touring. It can't. It's impossible. So it'll be fun to see how it adapts. Like I said, watching all this technology come where now people are going to actually be able to play together from different spaces, different locations as that gets tighter and stuff. It's going to be wild.
So when are you going public, Dan? When are you taking the company public?
Well, who knows? The funny thing is that we built Side Door as like a labor of love. That's how it started. It was like, I just had this idea. I was like, my first show in Calgary was at the Ironwood, which I'm sure you guys played back in the day.
Absolutely.
4 people were there, lost money, even just driving there. It was still fun because it was my first gig in Calgary. But like, I was like, And then like 6 months later, Laurie Matheson was like, oh, like my buddy Doug hosts this party in his backyard. And be a bunch of people that do want to come and play, and they'll pass the hat. And I was like, yeah, sounds great. So I go to Calgary again. It's like 60 people there in this backyard, pass the hat. Me and Laurie each make like $500 or something. And, I don't know, sell 1 million CDs and high fives. And it was like, oh my God, like I just left a footprint for the first time in Calgary. Like, and I knew that I could turn that 60 people into 100, into 200 people, and then, whatever. And, that was like the light bulb moment for me. Was like, okay, I don't need the Ironwood. I don't need the venue. I need Doug. I need that host. He's like my Trojan horse who's going to help me get into all of, and I had an internal motto of like, I need a Doug in every town. And so fast forward a bunch of years and I meet, and I started it was like with spreadsheets and emails. It was just like a list of house concerts across Canada. And I had a little fledgling record label at the time. And I was just literally booking shows in houses for, people like Astral Swans and Walrus and bands that I was trying to, promote through Matic Records. And then I met Laura, who's my co-founder, and she had been running this amazing series in her home in Halifax for years. And Rich A.C.R.O.N.Y.M put us in touch. And I was out there performing with the symphony, and we had breakfast, and it was like fireworks. Like and it was like all the same ideas about what we could do. And so as we started to develop the concept, it was like, oh my God, light bulb moment. It doesn't need to be a house. It doesn't need to be a concert. It's a marketplace where spaces and any kind of performer, a lecturer or a comedian or a dancer, just connect. And because the problem is like there's this funnel, right? And we're the lucky ones. We've made it through the funnel. But 97% of touring acts do not have a booking agent that can help them find shows. So they're out there scrambling through any means that they can.
Themselves.
Yeah. So it's like, and all of the gatekeepers they're there for a reason, right? Like managers, labels, promoters, agents, these people are not evil. they're helping to mitigate risk on behalf of venues, and they're keeping venues full because venues need to be full to survive. They need to sell booze and they need to be full. The problem is there's not that many venues. And so the gatekeepers are sort of like helping the venues stay full. And there's like, it's a good system that works for everybody who makes it through the funnel. The problem is, what about those 97% of people who aren't making it through the funnel? They can never put 2 feet on the train and quit their day job because they never make quite enough money because it costs too much to tour. Whereas like even in those early days when I was playing in like Doug's backyard, I was coming home with like an envelope full of cash because I wasn't spending nearly as much money to tour. I was like crashing on people's couches and saving money everywhere. So it was like, oh my God, like even in those early days, you can make something profitable and make something that's rewarding out of something small. And I'll tell you, like I wasn't that good back then. But because I could put 2 feet on the train and I could play like 150 shows a year, I got better. And so I didn't burn out and I didn't just like go back to a different job. And so essentially like the big why behind Side Door is I want 100,000 artists that you've like barely or never heard of making $100,000 a year doing what they love on Side Door. And that is like the golden accomplishment.
That's beautiful, actually. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. And
nice.
So, of course, in order to build it, it's expensive. We have 5 developers. We have to pull in money to build it. It costs way more money than it makes right now. But the idea is that if we can create this repeatable process, bring enough people into the ecosystem that, each user creates lateral value for other users. That's like the definition of like a tech marketplace. And so if we can make it profitable and then we can bring in enough people that it, starts to kind of work on its own, the idea is that eventually people can just like click on, I dream of like being on tour and I have like a day off next Thursday. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be in like Dayton, Ohio next Thursday. What do we got in Dayton? It's like Airbnb. You just like go and you find like a handful of cool venues, send them a message. Oh, this person got back to me right away. Like by the time you're done your soup, I just booked a gig for next Thursday in Dayton. And it's in some like cool, weird, like bookstore or art gallery or something.
We had that happen.
And then,
sorry, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
No, please. Sorry, I talk a lot. I'm such a fast talker.
No, so
talk. Please.
No, but it's just like it's nice when people reach out, when you actually have those people, like you're saying, those gatekeepers are those people that actually can kind of keep it going. Where were we? We were on tour on the West Coast. It was like we had a day off. It's just like when people reach out to you. You doing that for other people is like it's such.
Reno was like
benefits.
Yeah. Well, there have been those people who do those house show series, right? They've just sort of been islands, and I think
you bring them
into it is kind of connecting the dots.
Yeah,
and it's funny because it sounds like you're creating a couple literally new job like employment opportunities within an industry that doesn't have that many. Like if you're talking about having someone in your crew that literally is in charge of streaming that show every night. For the extra ticket holders. You
pay for themselves.
There's new opportunity. There's not a lot of opportunity in music outside of what already exists. So to hear about that kind of stuff, you consider it that way, where it's sort of kids, eh? You got kids too, huh? You got kids.
Pandemic.
But just the thought of even having someone, you could, you could consider a tour with someone who's the streaming side of that, where limited tickets are for each show, whatever. There's all that opportunity. It's very interesting.
Well, and the other thing is like when you guys go on tour, like I'm sure that your agent is looking at it and going, okay, what's the biggest venue that they can play that is sure to sell out? Because you want it to sell out. You don't want it to be like half full, right? You don't want to play to a half full huge venue. You want to play to a full, middle-sized venue or whatever. And so now you guys can you don't have to worry about like saturating and playing this risk game. You can sort of like play a venue that's like just under the size that you can sell, and then like have someone on tour, just come with a camera and just like keep selling tickets over and above. And that live quotient, like the people who are wanting to go and be there in person, that will keep growing too. But you can continue to like, earn revenue and serve your fans that didn't get tickets at home. I swear, like every show from here on out that sells out for me, that is a sellout, I will just have someone stream it, and I'll make it accessible to people who didn't get tickets.
Icing. That's all it is. Exactly. I think that's where it's absolutely going. It's interesting to think that because. Go ahead.
No. It's just one question about that. Like, would you put that on your regular YouTube page, or would you have your own sort of page for those concerts? Like it's a subscriber.
Oh, it would be no, it would be ticketed. It would be like you buy a ticket on Side Door
then,
for the
so
for the
it doesn't
online
appear.
element.
Yeah, right.
I want to dive into something that you said a little bit earlier, because you were like, "Oh, I was on the road and I wasn't very good at the time." When do you remember the time that you wrote a song and you're like, or I guess it's a two-parter. I guess you wrote a song and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm really now a songwriter." And how long?
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get there? And do you still have self-doubt, even though you've accomplished so much?
Yeah, I was texting with Donovan Woods the other day, and we were talking about how is it that there's all these 17-year-olds who write these like amazing hit songs, like, and we were both kind of lamenting that neither of us felt like we were any good at this until we were about like 26 or 27, and I think the song for me that I felt like, oh, like I'm not just emulating my heroes, I'm not just like trying to participate in this thing that we all know is cool. I felt like I was like lending my own voice, is a song that I still play to this day. It was on my first full record. It's called So Much for Everyone. And it's the one that I now do when I go stand out in the crowd and I get everyone to sing like a big choir. And that kind of came back around. There were many years where I didn't play that song at all, but that song was the first. There was like a handful of lines in that song where I felt like, oh my God, I think I just articulated a whole bunch of things with 6 words, you know? And I imbued a feeling through those 6 words by giving it a nice melody. And those lines are sort of like beyond just the sort of platitudes of cliche in songwriting. You know, it wasn't just like I'm sad or I love you. It was like articulating a sort of small hidden truth about existing. And that song for me was a page turner. That was like, okay, I think I'm onto something here. But the interesting thing to note is that I'd put out several EPs at that point and probably written like 50 songs, you know, and that's how long it took for me to feel anything of value.
But you still like, I mean, I get it. It's just like where you're kind of like, you're ramming your head against a wall. You can't like stress beyond stress because you can't put the words together to complete a song. Yeah. Do you still get that, or are you past that, or any like information that you can give to somebody out there that's like writing, like songwriting tips that you'd be like, this would be my number one tip?
It's the most painful thing in the world. It's like, what is it? What's his name? The guitar player from he plays with everyone. Jason. Oh God, what's his name? I forget his name. Anyways, great quote. He said, "Writing a song is like doing the New York Times crossword during a therapy session." No, it wasn't Jason Faulkner, okay. But Jason Faulkner has played on my last 2 records. And
there you go.
Total legend. No, it's the guy. I think he was Drive By Truckers.
Isbell.
Isbell. Oh, yeah. And I think that is a great quote. Like, you know, doing a New York Times crossword during a therapy session. And it's that thing where it's like when you look back on a great song and a great chorus or something, everyone who hears it knows, oh, that's great. And how could it be any different than that? What they don't know is that up until the point that you realize that you fell on that, it could have taken you a year to fall on that solution for that problem. And then up until that moment, it could have been anything. And then it lands and you're like, that's it. That's the hook, or that's the line, or that's the alliteration. And then at that point, then you know it's great. But it takes so much pain and like sorrow and just dread and anxiety to get there, like still to this day. And I think that I've gotten way better at songwriting over the years. I think I'm writing the best stuff that I've ever done, hands down. And I still, every song is like, you know, just a terrible, terrible, torturous process.
Do you have to walk away? Like, you're like, I'm walking away for 2 weeks. I cannot touch this thing. You know what I mean? Just so you can try and have a fresh start.
Yeah, perspective. It's like mixing too. You know, like you'll go crazy mixing, and like the only thing that's going to help you is walking away for like 5 or 6 days, and then coming back and be like, oh, it's so dumb. That guitar's way too loud. You know, but up until that point, you weren't sure. And yeah, like perspective, walking away, not forcing it, letting it sort of come. I also think of it like a sponge, like if your sponge is soaking wet, it needs to be wrung out. You know what I mean?
Like self-editing, you mean? Like,
well, no, I mean, like, if you haven't seen any great films or read any great books or had any great conversations, then, you know, like your sponge is dry. And so it's really hard to do. Whereas like the more ideas are floating and the more sort of like connective tissue you're touching in and amongst, then the more it's going to spur those great ideas. And so you have to keep your sponge wet. You have to like try and have enough input in order to have a strong output. And yet at the same time, if you aren't writing enough, it's a blockade. It's like all these ideas can't get out and there's no room for new ideas because your sponge is soaking wet. It can't get any more wet.
Do you find a certain medium helps you inspire you more than one than another, like books or movies, or like what inspires you that way?
Yeah, books for sure is number one. That's like when I'm reading, and I'm not always reading as avidly as I'd like to, but when I am reading avidly, that's when I'm on fire. I'm like, I feel like I see the connection between the grain of this wood and like the Roman Empire. You know, it's like you can kind of piece together all of the interwoven things and it only happens for me when I'm reading a lot and when I'm dissecting things through character and dissecting things through different perspectives. And but the other thing I wanted to say about songwriting, that is like the number one thing that I would say to any young or aspiring songwriter is edit. It's not done until it's done. One thing I learned in university, like I'd write this essay, and my parents were both English majors, and so I would like take it to them when I was done, and they would read it, and it'd be like all red, you know, and I'd be like, I thought I was done, and now I was so lazy about it, and it taught me to like, you know, if there is one word in a song that could be sung differently, or you could like flip it so that and the or are reversed so that the flow is a certain way or the alliteration is a certain way. It's like you have to be so, what's the word? Just like meticulous and hard on yourself to keep editing. And like, there's certain songs. I have some very wordy songs. So do you guys. You guys got a lot of wordy songs too. But like there's a song called Mouthpiece that literally took me a year to write. And I have memories on being on tour, driving like the Sprinter van and like running the song through my head over and over and over again, going, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. It could be better.
Do you find driving? Well, I find driving helps me come up with lyrics and just the rhythm of something, or walking at a certain pace. So do you do that as well, or
Yeah, it's funny, walking pace. There's another song called "Cold in the Summer" on my last record, and I don't know what the BPM is, but it's got this bass line, and I literally wrote it pushing a stroller, and the bass line came to me in time with my feet pushing a stroller around Commercial Drive in Vancouver, and it's like do 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 do.
Yep. Very familiar.
And I was like, it was just the walking pace that I was at, and the bass line came, and it's like the whole foundation of that song came from the rhythm of walking.
And then you sing it into your phone, right, at that moment to do that?
Yes,
exactly.
I can play it for you guys.
Yeah. I'll be working. It's usually doing yard work, and then all of a sudden, I got an idea and sing it.
You're right, though. It's amazing how much effort goes into making it sound effortless. Like, you know what I mean? We speak about alliteration and just the order of words, or is there another word, or is it, we talked about this earlier in this episode, the way that I think it was the Gillian Welch song, the way she like holds on to rhyme and just those little options.
Rhymed Atlanta with fantasy.
Yeah, just like fit it in on the, you know.
Like,
that's some Eminem shit.
I was going to bring up Eminem. I was going to bring that up with you because, I mean, if you're talking about the kings of what that can be, to take the amount of words, if you try to write out the amount of letters, and what he does with that stuff. Do you know the artist Little Dicky by any chance? Do you know the show, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay. Similar world, but just like that is the sort of wizardry of what that is in that genre of music. I mean, it exists in all of it, and you're right. I think agonizing over those choices and going, it's not bouncing. It's not like.
I have a song called Just Fear, and the kind of like hook, the sort of like thesis statement at the end of the chorus is, when every road feels traveled, it's just fear messing with us. And up until the final hour, the lyric of that song was, well, it's just fear messing with you. And it was like, that's just how I wrote it at first. It was just, don't worry, man, it's just fear messing with you. And it's like back in my brain for ages, I was like, oh no, I don't know, something's weird. And then the last moment, and I just sung it with, just fear messing with us. And all of a sudden the whole song took shape because everything made sense, because it was like, it was no longer instructive. It wasn't me telling you what's wrong with you. It was me acknowledging what's wrong with me. And it was also the idea that like, whatever I'm afraid of, be that like bootlicking fascist, like radical folks on or whatever, on the like right wingers, like they're afraid of something too. And they're afraid of like, flowery liberals coming and like, making their kid sit down when he pees or something like that. Right. And so like it's not me. I'm not the only one who's dealing with the fear, and it's not just you either. It is, and it's the truth is that fear is what brings out the worst in all of us collectively, and it makes me a shittier person, and it makes you a shittier person. And so the second that word changed, the whole song made so much more sense, and it had like such a more tender voice, and it was no longer like me yelling at someone.
Yeah, you don't want to preach, right? It's like
exactly.
There is definitely an era of music where the word "we" was used a lot more than "I." It's an I. It's been an I sort of. It's changed. It has for the most. If you think about, if you were to really like look at it, there was a "we" time where it was more of that. That idea was present. That's a big. It's a big difference. It's a huge difference. You're right. Like. And I love that it's right up to the last minute, because that's happened to me as well, where it's like, oh, okay, just right there. Yeah. Or while you're recording it, while it's happening. Right?
Yeah, it's just like, have you ever done where it's just like you didn't really have a full verse and you're like, okay, I'm just going to wing it in the studio, and you're like, this is going to be it. We only have like another hour or 2 hours. And it's like, the song might not make it on the record, but it might. Did you take any chances like that, or have you?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you don't have a choice because you just like don't get it done, and the clock's ticking. Definitely, there have been some moments like that. There's also been some moments where like a song idea becomes this really cool thing unexpectedly. The song called man, what's it called? It's got Kevin Drew on it. We did it in LA. It's called Never Quiet. It's on my last record, and that song.
Just remembered it. Amazing. You're a busy guy, aren't you?
So we're in the studio. We basically cut like all the songs that we needed for the record. And I was like, well, I got this one other idea, and it's like it's mostly just 2 chords back and forth. There's a few changes. And Joey Waronker's on the kit, amazing drummer. Jason Faulkner's on the bass, amazing bass player. And Kevin Drew was just like having a beer in the studio hanging out. And I was like, so we dial him up with a Prophet, and he's just like messing around with it. And I'm in the isolation booth on the guitar, and I teach Jason and Kevin just like the basic chord structure of the song. And we kind of go into our stations, and we're like, yeah, it's just whatever, just play through it, see what happens. And so I just start strumming, and Joey starts playing, and everyone starts. And then we get to the end of this, like, just like run through. I didn't even know that Drew, who was producing, had pressed record. And we get to the end of it, and he's like, okay, I got what I need. I was like, well, no, we're just going to record it now. And he's like, no, I got it. That's it. And that was it. It was like one take, vocals, everything together. There's like a bunch of wrong notes that are perfectly wrong, like notes that aren't in the chromatic scale of the key of the. And it's like, I wouldn't want it any other way. It is just like this perfect take. And those sort of like lightning strikes moments. Yeah, I mean, you can't conjure them. They just sort of every time you try to conjure them, you mess it up.
Yeah.
So good, man. Do you have dates booked right now? What's summer looking like for you? Are you back in the real world, or what? What's happening?
Yeah, there are some Alberta festivals for the end of July, and one hasn't quite been announced, so I don't know if I'm.
No, fair enough. I just did. Yeah, you don't have to say anything.
So the Toronto Danforth and the Kitchener show the day after that, from March 13th and 14th, 2020, from last year. The shows got kicked to June. Then they got kicked to September. Then they got kicked to January.
Yeah.
Then they got kicked to June again. They've been rescheduled 4 times. We just rescheduled them for the 5th time for this November. And we are working hard to announce some other Canadian dates in and around that time frame.
Nice. That's great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking we met you in Australia, if you remember that. That's how we actually. I mean, you'd been around a bit, and we'd been around a bit, and we sort of. We haven't seen you for quite a long time, but I think of the first tour together, Super Greenhorn, just like great times. And it was we had a little destruction, a little good stuff.
Well,
So
and we also had Josh along, right? You had Josh along with you. That's,
Yeah.
we're gonna see him on our next trip. Well, I guess it's not till next year around this time, but McNorton's holding it down over in England there. I don't know if you see him when you go over there, but it's always great to see that guy too. So
Globetrotter.
yeah,
Man, that was with GIF Trio.
Oh god, we'll have a
He put us
whole
together.
other hour of Trio, in his house of snakes and animals and Kiss posters.
He's the biggest Kiss fan in the world.
Come on down to Yowie Bay. And,
Cronulla. I
Cronulla.
think our
Brad
most damage
Finke.
was done in some hotel in Cronulla with you. I think
That guy's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that he was like he was the most like childlike adult in a very beautiful way. Like just sort of like loves music, loves bands, loves people,
Yeah.
He
super
was the
excitable.
guy. There was
He was,
one
and
guy.
he knew everyone in Australia.
Yeah.
And it was funny because his band back in the day before he kind of got into the industry was called The Childs, which was the perfect band name for that guy.
Other than the Jeff Trio would be. But yes, I mean, we stayed the second tour. We went back to tour. We stayed at his house for 2 weeks, and it was just I don't want to say a night. It was crazy. It was the truth. Oh my god! And
So I stayed at his house with Jeff Martin from the Tea Party.
Well, strange. There you go.
And
Famous in Australia.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to cast shade.
Different story.
He's a Windsor boy. We can take it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, when we were there, we went to Perth to play on this Canadian Blast thing, and it was with not the Final Fantasy. What was that band? The Montreal band. They were so good.
Oh, they were at it. Yeah. Oh.
Anyways, but it was the Trues and us and this other. Oh, why can't I think of their?
Yeah.
But Jeff Martin had been playing in Perth that night, and he ended up he was drunk, got in a fight with some crowd member. It was all chaos. Because Jeff's does well in Australia. He's I guess, apparently very popular down there.
He was living there at the time, right?
Yeah, he moved down there. I mean, I know that he's from I know him a little bit from being from Windsor, and I've heard a bunch. I know he can be prickly with people, but I guess he pissed the wrong guy off.
He I don't know if I should unearth this here. I don't know, but he was on stage. I was opening for him in Sydney, and he was explaining to the crowd that his girlfriend had flown into town to surprise him, and was at the show, and that was exciting. And he uttered the words, "Looks like Mr. Martin's getting lucky tonight." And then there was like a sort of awkward pause, and then he said, "Daddy's been a little pent up."
Wow. What year was this? This sounds long. It sounds like it has to be so long ago.
Yeah, this was like 2009.
Well, Dan, when we see you next time, we have another story for you about when he played just outside Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is it's Jeff Martin. He's a champion, but that's a little dated. That kind of talk on stage is a little dated. Did he then show you his oud? Because that's the one thing I remember seeing him give the same speech at Edgefest 2 years in a row about the oud and like its magical beginnings. But being from Windsor, we were huge fans. It was like this,
of course,
like from our town. I'll give him 2 records.
And the rivers
fair. Sorry. Exactly,
Absolutely.
like Arts County Fair when I was in university. Like I was there, plastic cup in hand.
Totally, sister.
With Big Wreck. And,
oh yeah, well, Big Wreck was another one there.
Yeah, totally.
Big guitars in those days. Yeah. Well, it's awesome, man. It's we're coming up. We won't keep you much longer. We know you got kids running around back there, and you probably got to hang out with them, as we all do. But it's been nice to see you
hang out
again.
with me.
I know they're always around. You think they want to hang out with themselves?
Yeah, super great to catch. Man, it's been way too long. I want to give you guys like huge hugs and high fives. And,
we will again. Yeah. Absolutely. It's good to see you, man, and it's great to watch what you're doing. It's going to help all of us really in the long run. So it's you know, like I said, we knew you when we were starting, and it's great to see what you've been doing. We hope to see you somewhere. We'll see you at one of them parks where they have tents. We'll see you at a festival someday.
Likewise, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care of yourself, man.
Anytime. Nice to see you, Dan. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Later, brother.
There's the bell.
That was nice.
Yeah, nice to see Dan again.
Just so good. You know, I never remember him being so business minded back in the early days, but it's great to see that he's doing such cool stuff.
Awesome. Who's playing that?
It's on me.
Oh, sorry.
It's like a toy or something, right?
It's like
it's our stove.
I thought it was a feedback.
I thought somebody was playing music to like play us out.
Yeah, the timer, right? It felt like
It's when you turn on the gas stove and it doesn't light.
Oh, tick, 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 tick.
Right, it's getting around dinner time around here, so I gotta probably end this.
It's bedtime over here.
Yeah.
Well, it's our last one. This is great.
Yeah, we'll get back at it someday. That was a good one. That was a good long talk with Dan.
Yeah.
We'll probably try to do it again someday soon. Like I said, we have shows this summer, so we're gonna get back to the real thing and be out there and doing that stuff. And then
we can kind of maybe do some stuff on the road. We were kind of talking about that, right? Where we'll just do A.C.R.O.N.Y.M while we're on the road. We'll just hang out in the room and just kind of like.
Yeah, maybe we'll broadcast some shows live.
Like this one. Yeah, we'll bring them all together as like a greatest hits in a live variety show. It's a good idea. But they're still literally, I mean, we have the East Coast.
Steve Green.
Oh, sorry, did I miss that? There we go.
All right.
There we go.
No.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's fun to talk about this stuff. And like, again, Dan is someone we see once in a while, but we used to see a lot, and, you know, everyone's doing their own thing. So it's pretty great to see him. He looks good and he's doing great. But we'll do the East Coast. We still got to do like Dawson, the North. We got all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tons.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Kay.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, next week.
For sure. I'll celebrate out here. Yeah. All right, man. Well, it's been fun. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah. And we'll see you with season 2, which will be probably Montreal, Quebec, and then going east and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we can do it while we're in Montreal and Quebec.
Right.
Again, like you're talking, you know, we're talking about Dan. This stuff is just going to maybe be a component of touring now anyways. We'll just live stream the whole damn thing. What are we eating? It's Domino's. Watch the Domino's. It's true.
Watch Mark argue with Steve about the crust that he picked on.
I mean, it's pretty inspiring to see, especially considering how hard it's affected all of what we do, to see someone like Dan, like, just saying, fuck that. And like, we're going to do this, and making it's just creating another way to do things. So, and it's I think it's going to be a part of the big picture as we go on anyways. But
of course it is.
I'm glad he's the one doing it because he's obviously put a lot of work into that over the years. And now it might be one of those things where the actual pandemic helped that. And he's been able to
for sure.
Literally steer right into it. And so when the world is different on the other side, he'll be a big part of it, which is great. Yeah. All right, boys.
Nice hanging with you.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
A.C.R.O.N.Y.M, that's A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. We started a little music club and we called it A.C.R.O.N.Y.M. We can't go on tour again until this damn pandemic ends. Until then, friends, won't you come on in and join us for A.C.R.O.N.Y.M? Analytical criticism regarding objectively narrowing your music.